A bruised, dark-haired boy clutches his chest in tearful pain, covered in fresh cuts. A cheerful, dark-haired girl enthusiastically calls out, inviting him to walk home with her. Holding his bruised hand, the smiling girl vows to never give up on him. Outside Palgok Middle School, a voice loudly calls out the name of Erin Ju. Erin Ju, a girl with long dark hair, turns her head in quiet surprise. Inside the classroom, the dark-haired boy and Erin lock eyes in sudden surprise recognition. Erin excitedly asks Mingyel if he is in class too, celebrating when he confirms they sit together. Erin questions his secrecy, and Mingyel admits he hid his admission to surprise her since they applied together. Playfully nudging him, Erin compliments Mingyel on how sharp he looks in his new school uniform. Blushing coyly, Erin teasingly asks if he has fallen in love with her. Mingyel panics in embarrassment as other classmates arrive to greet Erin. Laughing off her joke, Erin bids Mingyel goodbye as she walks away with her friends. Mingyel watches the popular Erin chat with her friends, reflecting on his crush. Mingyel looks back with melancholy, recalling how everyone disliked him back in elementary school. He remembers being completely isolated, with teachers, friends, and parents turning their backs on him. Amidst his painful childhood, young Erin fiercely stood up to defend and believe in him. A teacher announces Erin's election as class president, prompting classroom applause while Mingyel remembers his gratitude. Helpful Erin offers to carry heavy books for a teacher, who gratefully accepts her assistance. Erin invites Mingyel to join her and a group of classmates for food later. Mingyel hesitates over his lack of closeness with others, prompting Erin to gently withdraw the invitation. Mingyel immediately regrets his clumsy response as another classmate calls out Erin's name. Erin eagerly agrees to join her friends for tteokbokki and karaoke after school. Mingyel sits quietly as the girls plan their outing, realizing the group limit is set. Erin smiles warmly among her friends, radiating pure happiness as Mingyel watches from afar. Standing at the bus stop, Erin turns around in surprise as she spots Mingyel. Erin asks if he takes this bus, and Mingyel questions why she is taking a different route. Erin explains her new academy schedule aligns their bus rides, bringing a secret joy to both. Clasping her backpack close, Erin hesitantly turns and begins to speak to Mingyel. Hugging her backpack, Erin humbly shares her simple study habits and struggle to stay awake. Sighing, Erin doubts her talent, prompting Mingyel to comfort her and ask about her worries. Erin reveals her dream of attending a Seoul university, leaving Mingyel deeply surprised. Erin explains their local high school options, emphasizing the pressure to secure their academic futures. As Erin worries about her grades, Mingyel admires how hard she works for her future. With a bright smile, Erin expresses absolute confidence that Mingyel will get into university. Blushing intensely, Mingyel blurts out his desire to attend the same university as Erin. Erin is stunned by his confession, driving a panicking Mingyel to frantically backtrack. Erin laughs warmly and cheerfully agrees to work together toward the same academic goal. Overjoyed, Mingyel happily agrees, beginning their regular Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday bus rides home. When Erin struggles with her homework, Mingyel easily steps in to help her solve it. Erin gushes over a handsome movie star's smile, prompting a slightly protective warning from Mingyel. Mingyel tries copying the handsome actor's hairstyle in his mirror but feels disappointed with his attempt. Erin hilariously mistakes his new styled haircut for unwashed hair, leaving him utterly defeated. Mingyel slumps over his desk, quietly lamenting his failed attempt at changing his appearance. Mingyel gazes at the glowing Erin, desperately wishing to become someone worthy of her. Mingyel anxiously asks if his changes are weird, but Erin quickly reassures him otherwise. Erin blushes while playing with her hair, confessing that she finds his smile very pretty. Mingyel lies awake in bed, completely consumed and flustered by Erin's unexpected compliment about his smile. Mingyel practices a bright, joyful smile, feeling a newfound sense of confidence. On the bus, Mingyel notices Erin sitting alone in front of him, looking unusually downcast. Mingyel leans over the bus seat, gently asking Erin why she is sitting alone today. Erin tearfully explains she needs time alone and decides to sit by herself today, leaving Mingyel completely stunned. Anxiously sweating, a panicked Mingyel realizes he has completely ruined things and feels utterly doomed. Walking home, Mingyel wonders if he acted too excited or if Erin simply found him annoying. Mingyel's mother notes his swollen eyes and asks if he was crying, but he quickly brushes it off. Sitting at the kitchen table, his mother somberly asks him to sit down for an important family talk. Mingyel stands completely frozen, his heart sinking as he prepares to hear his parents' unexpected news. Erin explains her family is moving to Seoul for her father's job, leaving a shocked Mingyel devastated. Erin sadly admits that although they can stay in touch, the massive distance to Seoul will make things difficult. Mingyel quietly agrees while holding back his tears, devastated that things were falling apart just as they improved. Suddenly, Erin gently places her hand over his and calls his name, causing him to blush in surprise. Looking closely at him, Erin insists that he must use her phone number to stay in touch. Erin optimistically suggests that if they both study hard to enter a Seoul university, they will meet again. During their second year of middle school, the two are officially separated as she moves away. A few years pass in a blur as Mingyel navigates a bustling and crowded city life. Now in high school, Mingyel easily laughs and blends in comfortably with his new classmates. Returning to his old hometown, Mingyel looks around and realizes that absolutely nothing has changed. Spotting an elderly woman struggling with a heavy cart, Mingyil immediately steps forward to offer his assistance. Arriving at his new high school, Mingyil prepares to introduce himself to his new classmates. Standing before his new class, Mingyil explains that he recently moved back after living in Seoul. With a warm, friendly smile, he expresses his sincere hope that they can all get along. The teacher requests applause as classmates whisper compliments about his looks and ask where he went to middle school. Mingyil names his middle school, prompting classmates to discuss local high school placements before the teacher begins the lesson. The teacher points Mingyil to an empty desk and he politely assures her he can see perfectly. He quietly walks over to his assigned seat as his new classmates observe him with interest. Mingyil realizes Aran attends the neighboring school as Sangak was his only remaining option due to limited spots. Outside the classroom, curious classmates begin asking Mingyil details about how long he lived in Seoul. A blunt student asks why he returned, prompting another classmate to quickly scold him for being rude. Mingyil casually explains his return is due to family circumstances, which the curious classmates readily accept. Mingyil reflects on his father's failed business in Seoul while his new classmates playfully bicker over their intrusive questions. Mingyil swiftly shoots a basketball, gradually adjusting to his new life after his sudden return. Holding a basketball, Mingyil asks his new friends if they know anyone attending the neighboring high school. Classmates whisper in surprise upon hearing Aran's name, recalling that Mingyil also attended her former middle school. When a classmate eagerly asks if Aran is currently around, another reveals she has become hard to find. Mingyil listens with intense focus, his eyes widening as he waits for more news about Aran. His classmate explains she was forcibly transferred after getting into serious trouble and has been missing for days. Mingyil recalls Aran's past academic ambition, remembering how determined she was to prepare for college. He wonders if this explains why they lost touch, his thoughts suddenly interrupted by a dull, repetitive thudding noise. Turning his head toward the source of the commotion, Mingyil silently questions what is causing the sound. A shoe violently stomps down on a tan backpack, scattering books and writing utensils everywhere. A sudden heavy gasp echoes as a girl stands breathing heavily over the scattered contents of a ruined bag. Mingyil looks on in absolute horror and shock, frozen in place by the aggressive scene. A hand quickly reaches out and firmly catches another's wrist to halt a sudden blow. Mingyil steps in, catching the aggressive girl's wrist just in time to stop her strike. The title card reminds him of her once gentle nature as he stares at her in disbelief. He is shocked to see a tearful, furious Aran holding her fist high in anger. The two stand locked in confrontation on a quiet, dusty rural pathway under the open sky. Mingyil stares in silent bewilderment, completely unable to reconcile this furious girl with his memories. Aran glares back through heavy tears, her expression a mix of raw anger and deep sorrow. Outside the glowing apartment complex, voices chat excitedly about her impressive rise to 12th place in the finals. Lying in bed, Mingyil praises her academic improvement, though she humbly replies that she still cannot match his top-tier city ranking. Aran playfully questions why Mingyil brought up the topic, warmly praising his help and expressing deep gratitude. Mingyil bashfully downplays his assistance, insisting her success was entirely due to her own hard work. Aran notes how motivating it is to study with a friend for the same goal, attributing her progress to him. Aran remarks on how tall Mingyil has grown while lamenting that her own height remains unchanged. Aran eagerly dreams of them both studying hard, passing the college entrance exam, and attending the same university. Mingyil smiles affectionately into his phone, deeply moved by her heartfelt hope of a future reunion. Aran peacefully drifts off to sleep, her phone resting near her face as she lies in bed. Startled by the sudden silence, Mingyil sits up in bed and stares blankly at his phone. Mingyil stares at the hour-long call screen, softly calling Aran's name to see if she is there. Hearing only her steady breathing, Mingyil wonders to himself if Aran has fallen asleep. A gentle rhythmic breathing sound escapes Aran as she sleeps peacefully next to her glowing phone. Mingyil wishes to keep listening to her breathing but contemplates whether he should finally hang up. A quiet giggle escapes Mingyil as he smiles happily under his blanket holding his phone. Mingyil writes in his notebook, reassuring himself that Aran is probably busy and will reply soon. As a month passes without a single reply, Mingyil sits in class, deeply worried about Aran. Staring at his desk, Mingyil notes that Aran has not contacted him, answered calls, or used social media. Mingyil worries that since Aran was his only close friend, there's nobody else he can ask. Mingyil walks with classmates under cherry blossoms, wondering if he did something wrong to cause her silence. Shivering under his covers, Mingyil sadly wishes Aran had at least told him why she stopped calling. Mingyil lies awake in bed, staring blankly at the ceiling in complete sorrow and confusion. A flashback displays their last call, where Aran expressed her desire to see him soon. The title card transitions the scene to the emotional reunion of the two childhood friends. Mingyil instantly recognizes her, noting her messy hair, guarded eyes, and a starkly changed, gloomy expression. Mingyil is frozen in shock, realizing he has finally found his long-lost friend after 5 years. Gripping her wrist tightly, Mingyil trembles in panic, completely paralyzed and unsure of what to say. Sudden, sharp smack sounds as Aran aggressively slaps his hand away from her wrist. Aran glares at him with deep hostility and suspicion, coldly demanding to know his identity. Startled by her cold reaction, a flustered Mingyil immediately backtracks and stammers an apology. Mingyul remains silent as a flood of unanswered questions about her transfer and sudden silence rush through him. Standing on the quiet road under the trees, Mingyul softly reveals his identity to her. Mingyul points to himself with a nervous, hopeful smile, wishing she would recognize him. Eren stands quietly before him, looking intensely confused and skeptical of his claim. Eren's eyes widen in sudden, overwhelming shock as she finally recognizes his familiar face. Panicking, Eren suddenly turns around and bolts away, leaving a completely stunned Mingyul behind. Mingyul immediately chases after her, desperately calling her name and pleading for her to wait. Eren trips and falls hard, screaming at an approaching Mingyul to stay away as he offers bandages. Clutching her scraped, bleeding knee, Eren glares at him and fiercely demands that he stay away. Mingyul stands frozen, looking down at his friend with a deeply sorrowful and pained expression. Eren's open, damaged backpack lies abandoned on the ground with papers and pens scattered everywhere. Mingyul studies a classmate record book, discovering that he and Eren are assigned to the same classroom. Mingyul notes that Eren transferred to Songguk High around the time she stopped contacting him. Mingyul asks his new classmates about Eren, prompting a surprised reaction at the mention of her name. A classmate reveals that Eren has been considered strange ever since she transferred to their school. When Mingyul asks for clarification, the classmate explains that Eren had few friends but would reply if addressed. Classmate explains that Eren completely isolated herself and never took the initiative with anything. The classmate notes that junior year arrived with classmates ignoring her, leading her to skip school. Shocked by the news, Mingyul asks if they know why Eren transferred from Yusok High. Classmates admit they lack exact details, but mention that rumors surround her unpleasant transfer story. Another classmate stops the speaker, asking Mingyul if he and Eren were actually close friends. Mingyul silently recalls the memory of young Eren smiling brightly as the wind blows her hair. Mingyul reveals that Eren was his only close friend in middle school, surprising his classmate who thinks he doesn't seem like the type. Hearing this, the classmate advises Mingyul to avoid the unpleasant and unverified rumors surrounding her. A classmate apologizes for his insensitive remarks, prompting another to scold him, though Mingyul politely insists it is fine. One classmate attempts to excuse the behavior, but a friend quickly silences him with a sharp warning. Mingyul silently worries if Eren faced such rumors before asking his classmate, Seonho, if she still attends school. Seonho explains that Eren typically visits the counseling office and occasionally sneaks in during class hours, making her presence highly unpredictable. A classmate suggests that a girl named Gina from class 2 might know something since she also attended Polgok Middle School. He suggests that Mingyul approach Gina, who is likely close with Eren and her former schoolmates, to find answers. Though he does not remember Gina, a hopeful Mingyul thanks his classmate and decides to seek her out. Meanwhile, a group of girls discuss how handsome the transfer student is before asking Gina if she was close to him. Drinking from her juice box, Gina sheepishly replies that they were not close in middle school. Her friends tease her lack of male friends. The one notes he was isolated, raising curiosity about his past. Gina vaguely describes him as normal, prompting her suspicious friends to tease her about having a secret crush on him. Gina loudly denies having a crush, but her friends continue to tease her until a sudden voice calls out her name. A classmate arrives to deliver the surprising news that the handsome new transfer student is looking for Gina to ask her something. Gina panics in utter disbelief as her excited friends eagerly push her to seize this opportunity to talk to him. Gina blushes in deep embarrassment, dreading the looming awkwardness of meeting someone she barely knows. Meeting on the quiet school staircase, Mingyul tentatively asks Gina if he can inquire about something, to which she hesitantly agrees. Before he can ask, Gina nervously smiles and admits she has a question of her own first. She looks at him expectantly, asking if he actually remembers who she is. Mingyul nervously affirms he knows her from Polgok Middle School, but her flat reaction makes him realize there is more. As Mingyul desperately struggles to recall another connection, Gina sighs, noting his obvious blank expression. Gina reveals they actually attended the same elementary school, prompting a sheepish, sweating realization from Mingyul. Mingyul apologizes for his poor memory, and Gina reassures him it is fine since they were never close back then. Gina notes it is natural he forgot, as he was always glued to Eren's side since their childhood, which Mingyul softly acknowledges. Taking his cue, Mingyul explains that he is looking for Eren and managed to cross paths with her just yesterday. Gina's eyes widen in sheer shock upon hearing this, and Mingyul notes that Eren seemed incredibly changed. He explains how different she is from his memories and asks if something traumatic happened before she transferred from Yusok High. Gina falls silent, her smile fading as she ponders whether she should share the grim truth with him. Gina asks if he would believe her if she revealed that Eren had committed a serious crime, leaving Mingyul completely stunned. Stunned, Mingyul stands up and defensively objects, reminding her of the gentle, kind person Eren used to be. Gina gazes up at him in silent pity, unaffected by his emotional outburst. Gina challenges his understanding of Eren, admitting that despite being longtime friends, she never truly knew her inner self. Gina reveals that Erin was always extremely secretive, never sharing a single detail about her family, childhood, or personal worries. She looks down somberly as she prepares to detail the tragic event that changed everything. Mingyul steps closer, his gaze intense as he demands to know the exact details of what occurred. Gina explains that Erin was found at a grim crime scene but refused to cooperate with the police investigation. Though ruled a suicide, the lack of evidence left a lingering suspicion that forced Erin to transfer schools. Blood splatters paint the pavement next to a pair of legs, hinting at the tragic incident. A chilling memory depicts Erin covered in blood at the scene, her expression cold and completely detached. Mingyul stares in numb, paralyzed shock as the weight of the dark rumor sinks in. Gina delivers the final crushing truth. Everyone believes Erin is actually a cold-blooded murderer. Refusing to accept the horrifying rumor, Mingyul fiercely declares that Erin is incapable of such an act. Gina's cynical question echoes in his mind, highlighting his deep denial of the situation. Mingyul realizes Gina shared the story only because she anticipated his absolute disbelief. Back in the classroom, Mingyul tries to focus on his teacher but wonders if Gina also blames Erin. He doodles in his notebook, reconstructing the timeline of the fateful day Erin was found at the scene. He notes that Erin's stubborn silence regarding what she witnessed is what ultimately made everyone suspect her. Mingyul realizes the timeline of this tragedy aligns perfectly with the winter of their high school freshman year. He realizes with sinking dread that this dark incident occurred exactly when Erin cut all contact with him. Rumors brand her a killer, leaving her possessions scattered and her life in ruins. Despite transferring to escape the unbearable pain, Songguk High offered Erin no relief from her torment. As her absences grew, a sudden click of a pen interrupts his doubt about the rumor. Mingyul wonders why Erin never defended herself to stop the endless rumors, but is suddenly interrupted. Erin's quiet, distant profile reflects the heavy burden of her unspoken secrets. Walking alone in the rain, Erin remains isolated from the rest of the world. A sudden, shocking realization echoes through the halls as someone announces Erin has arrived. Mingyul is shocked to learn she attended school today and wonders how he missed her. Mingyul realizes Erin has been sneaking into school through the counseling room to avoid others. Desperate to see Erin, Mingyul struggles to find a way to leave class. Feigning a severe stomachache, Mingyul gets permission from his teacher to head to the infirmary. Gina's attention is drawn to the window as she notices someone leaving during class. Gina spots Mingyul running off and wonders where he could possibly be going mid-class. Mingyul sprints across the school grounds, his breath catching as he desperately searches for Erin. Mingyul follows the single path, certain that Erin must have headed down this road. Mingyul runs with absolute resolve, confident he understands exactly what Erin needs right now. A painful flashback reveals peers bumping into him and cruelly calling him trash. His classmates mock him openly, warning others to protect their belongings from him. Dark whispers and cruel demands to stay away completely isolate the young, defenseless boy. Even in the teacher's office, Mingyul is forced to apologize for things he didn't do. With nobody on his side, his own parents blamed him for lying instead of offering comfort. Overhearing his parents argue about who to blame, Mingyul realizes his isolation is complete. Enduring daily agony with absolutely no support, school became a deeply painful and unbearable nightmare. Standing on the edge, a bleak fence is all that stands before the drop. I'm here to help if you're feeling overwhelmed. Please consider reaching out for support. You can connect with people who care at the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by calling or texting 988. There's hope in talking things through. Staring down at the traffic below, a desperate young Mingyul wanted everything to end. Sumin publicly refuses to sit next to him, prompting the teacher to find a volunteer. Just as despair took over, young Erin suddenly appeared with a warm, bright greeting. Mingyul keeps running, reflecting on how Erin once saved him when he was down. He realizes that what Erin needs isn't grand, but it is deeply significant nonetheless. All Erin truly needs in this dark moment is just one person by her side. Mingyul shouts Ara's name, causing her to stop and turn around in complete shock. He stands before her, gasping for air after his frantic and exhausting chase. Erin stands frozen under the arch, her eyes wide with a painful, aching vulnerability. Mingyul calls her name softly as they stand face to face in the quiet, misty air. Standing a short distance away, Erin quietly watches him struggle to catch his breath. Overwhelmed by a rush of unspoken words, Mingyul struggles to find the right starting point. Erin hesitantly asks if Mingyul transferred to Songguk High, breaking the heavy silence. Startled by her question, Mingyul stares at her in complete and utter disbelief. Erin explains that family struggles forced her sudden transfer to Songguk High. Mingyul admits he moved back just to see her, before quickly apologizing for his forwardness. To his surprise, Erin suddenly bows her head and offers a deeply sorrowful apology. When he asks why, Erin confesses that she intentionally ignored all of his phone calls. Erin admits she believes staying away forever would protect them both and end the pain. Mingyul is left deeply confused as Erin takes all the blame upon herself. Erin gently takes his hand, asking if hitting her once would resolve his anger. Erin presses his hand to her cheek, pleading with him to strike her until he feels better. Mingyul is horrified as Erin begs him to strike her repeatedly to earn his forgiveness. She suggests that after venting his anger, he can leave her behind for good. Mingyul stares down at her in absolute shock, questioning what Eren truly thinks of him. Mingyul wonders if Eren truly believes his anger is merely about losing touch. Clenching his trembling fist, Mingyul internally notes that his physical wound is completely healed. Standing in the pouring rain, Mingyul silently worries if Eren is truly doing all right. Convinced she is not all right, Mingyul listens as Eren desperately asks why he won't strike her. Looking down with deep sorrow, Eren asks if there is anything else she can do to ease his pain. Mingyul firmly holds Eren's shoulders, declaring he could never harm her, and begins explaining his return. Flashback reveals Eren was his sole motivation to improve himself and study diligently. The memory highlights how thoughts of Eren kept him going through his darkest and most painful days. Eren stands wide-eyed in shock as Mingyul confesses that she has always been incredibly important to him. Mingyul looks down at her softly, admitting that his only desire was to see her once again. Mingyul tentatively asks if her sudden disappearance and silence in the past had a specific cause. Mingyul asks if her drifting away was related to the tragic incident at Yusak High School. Startled by his question, Eren suddenly turns away in distress, leaving Mingyul completely surprised. As Eren begins walking away, Mingyul desperately shouts that Gina told him everything about her past. Mingyul references the dark rumors and horrifying accusations everyone has been spreading about her high school tragedy. Despite the heavy rumors, Mingyul firmly objects, stating he refuses to believe the terrible accusations. Mingyul fiercely declares his absolute belief in her innocence, though she silently wonders how he can be so certain. Eren continues walking away silently, her back turned to him in deep, quiet contemplation. Eren gently glances back over her shoulder, offering him a faint, bittersweet smile. Mingyul stops in his tracks, staring at her soft expression in utter confusion. Flashback recalls Gina questioning whether Eren would ever believe her if she revealed the truth. Gina admits she no longer knows Eren well enough, suggesting Eren likely feels the same distance. Mingyul remembers the comforting warmth of the girl who once saved him from despair. Mingyul recalls desperately pleading with Eren to confirm she is not the cold-blooded murderer people claim. Eren abruptly turns and walks away into the downpour, leaving Mingyul standing helpless under the arch. Mingyul stands frozen in shock as the heavy rain drips off his school uniform. Overcome with grief, Mingyul collapses into a crouch against the tunnel wall, letting out a heavy sigh. Clutching his head in deep frustration, Mingyul wonders if he has made things worse by saying the wrong thing. Mingyul realizes that Eren hasn't truly changed, but has simply locked away her heart from everyone. Looking up at the bleak sky, Mingyul helplessly wonders what he can possibly do to reach her. The scene shifts to the neighborhood streets as heavy rain pours down over everything. Walking alone in the cold rain, Eren shivers and clutches her stomach in distress. Eren gasps for breath, her face wet with rain as she struggles to move. Mingyul's desperate plea about her true character continues to echo painfully in her mind. She tightly clenches her wet clothes, her hands trembling violently in the freezing rain. Letting out a bitter, tearful laugh, Eren helplessly questions what she is supposed to do now. Eren confesses that his questioning was her greatest fear, explaining why she avoided him so desperately. Overwhelmed by her heavy emotions, Eren squats down in the pouring rain and cries. Inside the teacher's office, a teacher acknowledges how difficult transferring schools during senior year must be. The teacher kindly offers to overlook Mingyul's unauthorized classroom departure just this once. Mingyul politely thanks the teacher while silently worrying if Eren managed to get home safely in the storm. As the teacher warns him about future absences, Mingyul wonders when Eren will return to school. Mingyul considers asking the school counselor about Eren, but decides it might be too intrusive. Gina and her friends notice Mingyul in the hallway and warmly call out to greet him. Gina asks why he is completely soaked, prompting Mingyul to hesitantly admit he went outside. After declining a jacket, Gina quietly pieces together that Mingyul went out to find Eren during class. Flustered by his intense gaze, Gina asks why he is staring, leading Mingyul to apologize and hesitate. Mingyul tentatively asks Gina if they can find a private place to talk alone for a moment. Gina reacts in loud disbelief at his sudden request while her friends watch in absolute excitement. Disregarding Gina's protests, her friends eagerly push her toward Mingyul and leave them to talk privately. Mingyul thanks the friends while Gina panics in deep embarrassment, dreading the upcoming conversation. Gina looks nervously over her shoulder, her mind racing as she stands in the school hallway. Startled by a voice from the side, Mingyul turns as someone calls out his full name. Gina reveals she saw him run off earlier and confirmed Eren's presence with the counselor. Gina directly confronts Mingyul, asking if he skipped class specifically to chase after Eren. Mingyul embarrassedly confesses to Gina that his brief meeting with Eren did not last very long. Gina firmly grabs his collar, urgently telling him to snap out of his distraction. Gina scolds him about attendance penalties affecting his future, leaving Mingyul in sudden shocked realization. Mingyul completely ignores Gina's warning, instead worrying aloud about how Eren manages her own school grades. Annoyed by his single-minded focus, Gina loudly demands to know if he is even listening. Mingyul casually brushes off her frustration to ask for a favor, leaving Gina feeling completely ignored. Rain pours heavily over the school building as the teacher finishes up class announcements inside. The teacher reminds the class that midterms are scheduled to begin the following week. After class ends, Mingyul packs his backpack while letting out a heavy, contemplative sigh. Invited to shop after school, Gina declines and tells her classmate to go ahead without her. Her glasses-wearing friend curiously questions if Gina has other plans after school today. Gina casually reveals she has business to take care of with Mingyel, shocking her classmate. Gina's friends tease her about a potential romance, causing her to blush and frantically deny it. Gina clarifies that Mingyol only wants to ask her questions regarding Pogok Middle School. Gina claims she will answer his questions and leave, but her friends remain highly unconvinced. Her friends continue teasingly suggesting she enjoys the attention, which Gina loudly and embarrassedly rejects. Despite her loud denials, Gina quietly blushes as she reflects on her upcoming meeting with Mingyol. Mingyol admits he hasn't heard from Erin in years and wants to know what happened. Gina pauses, looking at him with quiet hesitation before asking a question of her own. When Gina directly asks if he likes Erin, Mingyol reacts with complete shock and embarrassment. Blushing furiously, Mingyol flusteredly wonders if his feelings for Erin were really that obvious to everyone. Gina's expression turns dead serious as she prepares to deliver some harsh, sobering truth. Gina sternly warns him that a death occurred, refusing to help if he is merely curious. Mingyol acknowledges his request might seem strange, but firmly states the sincerity of his beliefs. Gina gazes up at him in stunned silence, caught off guard by his sudden intense resolve. Mingyol passionately declares his only desire is to see Erin smile happily once again. Gina reflects on how much Mingyol has changed, noting he seems like a completely different person. Mingyol suddenly calls out to Gina with a friendly wave, interrupting her deep thoughts. Sharing his umbrella, Mingyol offers to talk as they walk home, which Gina quietly accepts. Gina asks if he was always this outgoing, pointing out his quiet demeanor in middle school. Gina bluntly describes him as a former quiet loner, delivering a comical blow to his ego. Curiously, Gina asks Mingyol what caused such a dramatic change in his personality after middle school. Mingyol details his rigorous self-improvement routine, earning a sincere word of admiration from Gina. Mingyol reveals his sole motivation was to become someone truly worthy of standing by Erin. Gina stares at him in quiet shock, deeply moved by the intensity of his devotion. The scene shifts to a past memory in classroom 2-1 as classmates invite Erin downtown. Erin politely declines her classmate's invitation, explaining she has to attend academy classes today. Her friends playfully tease her about walking with Mingyol instead of taking the academy shuttle. Erin defends her choice, prompting a knowing, mischievous smile from her close friend Gia. When her friend boldly accuses her of just wanting to walk with Mingyol, Erin panics. Her friends loudly tease her about Mingyol's nerdy vibe, drawing unwanted attention in the classroom. Flustered and blushing, Erin begs her friends to stop talking about Mingyol's obvious feelings. To prevent further embarrassment, Erin quickly slaps her hand over her talkative friend's mouth. Erin desperately whispers that they are being far too loud with their teasing remarks. Giggling, Gina suddenly runs out of the classroom, leaving Erin standing there in confusion. Left alone to process the playful teasing, Erin can only sigh in mild embarrassment. Gina stands in quiet contemplation, her expression serious as she clutches her backpack straps. Feeling pity for Mingyol's innocence, Gina quietly mutters to herself about him while firmly deciding in her mind that she can never reveal the truth to him, leaving Mingyol completely confused by her sudden remark. As they walk side by side, Gina questions Mingyol about the length of his friendship with Erin, prompting him to recall that they have been close since Erin transferred in during their second grade year. Sipping on her juice box, Gina confidently shares that she was most likely the very first friend Erin made when she arrived. Mingyol is utterly stunned by the revelation that Erin was a transfer student, while Gina enthusiastically confirms his surprise. Gina questions the depth of his feelings given his total lack of knowledge about Erin's past, leaving Mingyol to sheepishly confess that he simply hadn't been paying attention back then. Mingyol asks Gina to elaborate on the rumors and stories she has heard about Erin's past. Gina explains that she didn't hear it directly but was told by a close friend who currently attends Yusuk High School. Gina explains that most of their middle school classmates went to Yusuk High before pivoting to bring up a question that has been on her mind. Gina suddenly stops walking in the middle of the street as a realization hits her. Mingyol looks back in surprise, asking what kind of relationship those kids had with Erin. Turning away to continue walking, Gina admits she was never told any specific details about their relationship. Gina clarifies that she has always been in the dark regarding who Erin's other friends were. Gina ponders aloud whether Erin's family, perhaps a younger sibling, would know the truth, catching Mingyol completely off guard. Mingyol reacts in loud disbelief to the idea of Erin having a sibling, but Gina quickly clarifies that she is not entirely sure herself since Erin never mentioned it. As Mingyol presses for details, Gina explains that she briefly saw Erin's mother during her school transfer process. In a vivid flashback, Gina remembers standing in the school corridor as Erin and her mother walked right past without noticing her, with the mother praising the school. Gina recalls the mother warmly suggesting they should bring someone named Dare to the school once Erin graduates. Back in the present, Mingyol repeats the name in quiet, thoughtful surprise. Taking another sip of juice, Gina admits she is merely assuming it was a sibling, noting it could have easily been a cousin. Gina reflects on how Erin completely avoided discussing any details regarding her family. Mingyol realizes that he had never once stopped to consider the details of Erin's family. Grabbing the door handle, Mingyol realizes how completely silent Erin was about her home life. Mingyel solemnly wonders how Erin's potential sibling would react to her current painful situation. Mingyel questions what kind of life Erin's mysterious family members are currently enduring. The scene shifts to Mingyel's home, where his mother sits folding laundry as he calls out to ask if she remembers Erin. His mother looks up in confusion at the unfamiliar name, prompting Mingyel to explain that Aaron was a classmate of his back in middle school. His mother dismisses the question, stating that neither she nor his father recall such details. Shifting the topic, his mother asks Mingyel why he has been acting so unusually gloomy lately, catching him off guard. She explains that while she was glad his grades improved, she was far happier seeing him become a more cheerful person. As his mother warns him against slipping back into his old gloomy habits, Mingyel quietly offers a soft, submissive agreement. She reminds him of his promise to keep his grades up and maintain a stable school life, noting that she trusted him when they moved back. She sternly cautions him that there cannot be any issues with his upcoming midterm scores. The scene shifts to Gina's apartment building as she announces her arrival home. Gina walks into her home, where she is greeted by her sister, who questions her lateness, which Gina attributes to chatting with a friend. Her brother playfully teases her about being out with a boy, causing a flustered Gina to loudly and defensively deny it. Her older sister sternly advises her to focus on senior year and save romance for college, despite Gina's desperate protests. When her brother mockingly suggests she simply can't get a boyfriend, Gina furiously threatens him in response. Her brother offers her some fried chicken purchased by their father, but an annoyed Gina declines and heads straight to her room. Gina stops to ask her younger siblings if they know of a student named Juda Ray at their school. Her sibling confirms that nobody by that name attends Polgok Middle School nor any other schools in the area. Gina dismisses the matter and shuts her bedroom door, leaving her brother curious about the mysterious name. Back in the living room, the siblings playfully bicker over their food and studies. Completely drained from the day's heavy events, Gina collapses face down onto her bed. Gina stares blankly at her ceiling, lost in a sea of heavy, unsettling thoughts. Rolling onto her side, Gina anxiously questions whether she spoke out of turn today. Gina remembers Mingyel's intense, searching gaze when he asked about Erin's past connections. With a somber expression, Gina resolves that she can never reveal the painful truth. Gina deeply fears what would happen to Mingyel if he ever discovered the horrific reality. Unaware of the brewing storm, Mingyel sleeps peacefully in the quiet safety of his bedroom. A decorative transitional title screen signals the continuation of the story's dramatic events. A beautiful promotional screen marks the beginning of a brand new chapter. A green public bus travels smoothly along a quiet, tree-lined suburban street. After his transit card registers an insufficient balance, the boy realizes he forgot to refill it, prompting the dark-haired girl to pay for both of them. Sitting together on the bus, the brown-haired boy gratefully promises to repay her immediately, but she casually dismisses the small amount. Despite her polite refusals, the boy insists on repaying his debt in any way she wishes, citing his parents' strict rules. The dark-haired girl compromises by asking to borrow his study notes, which she considers more than enough compensation. The brown-haired boy warmly compliments her, declaring that she is a truly kind person. Surprised by his sudden compliment, the dark-haired girl stares back at him in silence. She suddenly raises her voice to object, startling him and leaving him completely confused by her reaction. The dark-haired girl lectures him about overusing the word kind, arguing it cheapens its value, which he thoughtfully contemplates. Overview of the hanging bus handrails, she reflects on how true kindness is actually a rare and precious talent. Clutching her backpack tightly, she warmly confesses her deep admiration for truly kind individuals and her desire to be like them. When he insists that Erin is already a very kind person, she comically exaggerates her denial, claiming she knows her true self. Her expression turns soft and wistful as she quietly and firmly repeats that she is not actually a kind person. Turning to look at him, Erin asks if he knows the secret to identifying a genuinely kind person, prompting his curious inquiry. With a cheerful smile, she points directly to her own face and reveals that the secret lies in a person's eyes. The brown-haired boy reacts with genuine curiosity, softly repeating her words as he looks closer at her. Looking out the bus window, Erin reaffirms her belief that she can read someone's true nature through their eyes. Intrigued, the brown-haired boy points to himself and eagerly asks her to evaluate his own eyes for kindness. Leaning in remarkably close, she gently parts his bangs to inspect his eyes directly. The two classmates remain frozen in breathless silence, their faces merely inches apart. As she continues to stare deeply into his eyes, she begins to deliver her verdict while his face turns completely red. Her dark eye glistens as it reflects his flustered, blushing face back at him. While the boy panics internally about her extreme proximity, she begins to share her observation of his character. A sudden, loud rattle shakes the bus handrail as the vehicle jolts on the road. The sudden bump throws her completely off balance, sending her crashing directly into his chest. His eye dilates in pure shock and embarrassment from the sudden, intimate physical contact. Clutching her closely to prevent her from falling, he anxiously asks if she is all right, to which she softly agrees. Sitting back up while still blushing, they awkwardly try to regain their composure after the sudden, intimate accident. Holding his hand over his mouth, the boy blushes furiously as his heart begins to beat rapidly. She looks away with a slight blush, silently sharing his intense, awkward embarrassment. The scene transitions to the past as Erin rests her head sleepily on her classroom desk. Mingyel enters the bustling school classroom and immediately spots her resting quietly in the corridor. The boy pauses near the doorway, softly repeating her name to himself in quiet, thoughtful concern. A light-haired classmate suddenly approaches him, loudly mentioning that he saw him walking home with Gina yesterday. As his friend playfully accuses him of flirting with Gina so soon after transferring, Mingyel frantically denies any romantic feelings. While his friends tease him, Mingyel smiles sheepishly but begins to sense an uncomfortable, unsettling vibe in the classroom. He looks back at the room, noticing how his classmates completely isolate and ignore Aaron. Surrounded by the cold shadows of socializing classmates, Aaron remains entirely alone at her desk. Mingyel wonders why none of her classmates are greeting her or showing any happiness at her presence. He watches in growing confusion as the other students chat happily, completely avoiding even looking in her direction. He reflects on how, over their sophomore year, the entire class slowly but completely ostracized her. The surrounding classmates watch in quiet shock as Mingyel begins walking directly toward her quiet corner. Breaking the unspoken social barrier, Mingyel walks over and stands firmly in front of her desk. Aren looks up in startled surprise as Mingyel softly asks if she made it home safely. The entire classroom suddenly falls into a heavy, suffocating silence as everyone turns to watch. With a sudden, dramatic slam of her desk, Aren quickly rises to her feet. Overwhelmed by the sudden attention, Aren swiftly runs out of the silent classroom in panic. Mingyel stands frozen in deep confusion while the rest of the class watches in silence. A classmate advises the boy not to take the girl's cold reaction to heart. Sitting at the lunch table, his classmates discuss how the two used to be close. The dark-haired classmate advises Mingyel that it is better to avoid getting involved with her. Mingyel questions him, prompting the classmate to bring up the rumors Gina mentioned about Aaron. The classmate explains that many students at the school believe those rumors are true. The dark-haired classmate warns Mingyel that trying to befriend her will hurt his reputation. Staring at his lunch tray, Mingyel internally dismisses the classmate's warning as completely ridiculous. A bright memory of young Aaron cheerfully greeting him with a wide smile flashes by. Mingyel looks down, warmly remembering how Aaron was the one who first approached him back then. Staring at a juice carton, Mingyel wonders if she endured harsh rumors just to speak with him. Shifting back to the present, the school entrance stands quiet under the bright midday sun. Under the shade of a tree, Aaron sits completely alone on a concrete ledge. Mingyel calls out to Aaron, causing her to look up in sudden surprise. Mingyel runs up to her, heavily out of breath but relieved to have finally found her. Reassuring her, Mingyel holds out the carton and asks her not to run away. Aaron looks surprised as Mingyel explains he brought her the juice because she missed lunch. Mingyel stands, catches his breath, looking slightly flustered under her quiet, searching gaze. Mingyel awkwardly bids her farewell, turning around to leave her in peace. Aaron stares silently at him as he walks away, clutching the juice carton closely. Aaron calls out his name, causing Mingyel to stop and look back in surprise. Aaron quietly points out that the lunch break has not actually ended yet. Mingyel blushes deeply, wide-eyed with surprise at her invitation to stay. Mingyel awkwardly walks back and sits down on the ledge next to her. Feeling his heart race, Mingyel struggles to find something appropriate to say. Mingyel panics internally while Aaron quietly sips her drink, completely unaware of his distress. Watching her drink, Mingyel wonders what traumatic event caused Aaron to change so drastically. A grim flashback of legs lying motionless on the ground hints at a past tragedy. Mingyel recalls her crying in the rain, desperately avoiding any discussion of the past. Mingyel solemnly reflects on the painful reality that someone actually lost their life back then. Though he wants to ask, Mingyel resolves not to pry to avoid hurting her further. Desperate to help, Mingyel turns to her and hesitantly begins to ask a question. Mingyel asks how she has been handling her schoolwork, catching Aaron off guard. Aaron looks down, admitting it has been a very long time since she studied. In a comical chibi moment, Aaron calculates how long it has been since her sophomore year. A bright memory of their shared goal to study hard and succeed together flashes back. Aaron looks somber, uncertain whether the incident or her isolation caused her to lose focus. Mingyel takes a deep breath, preparing to make a heartfelt offer to her. Turning to face her directly, Mingyel warmly proposes that they try studying together again. Mingyel reminds her of their old shared goal of getting into the same university. Mingyel looks at her with an earnest expression, asking if she wants to try again. Mingyel watches her closely, hoping she will accept his sincere proposal. Aaron stares back at him with wide, thoughtful eyes, quietly processing his words. Mingyel offers a sheepish, hopeful smile, waiting patiently for her response. Leaning in remarkably close, Aaron softly remarks that he is still as kind as ever. Mingyel freezes in complete shock and embarrassment, his face turning bright red. Aaron's dark eye dilates as she continues to look closely at him. Aaron asks him what he said while a sudden high-pitched ringing fills the air. The school bell rings loudly, signaling the end of their brief lunch break. Coughing awkwardly to break the tension, Mingyel suggests they head back inside. Mingyel looks back in mild confusion, wondering why she isn't following him. The dark-haired girl sits alone on the ledge, quietly announcing her intention to visit the restroom first. Leaning close to him, she softly tells Mingyel that he remains just as kind as always. Mingyel flusteredly scratches his head, realizing he never got an answer and admitting to himself that his actions stem from liking her. Under the shade of the trees, the dark-haired girl sits alone on the ledge, gazing up wistfully. In a quiet close-up, the dark-haired girl gazes upward, softly murmuring to herself. Clutching her hands, she looks down with a melancholic expression and whispers that she does not deserve his kindness. On her way to school, the short-haired girl stops in surprise while holding her notebook. Mingyul walks ahead of her on the sidewalk, completely unaware of her presence behind him. Recognizing his back, the short-haired girl realizes that they take the same route to school. She hesitates, questioning if they are close enough yet to walk together and feeling too self-conscious to run up to him. A sudden realization strikes the short-haired girl, prompting an excited gasp. Spotting the red traffic light ahead, she eagerly plans to greet him once he stops waiting for it. She nervously rehearses different conversation starters in her mind, wondering whether to go with a casual greeting or mention their upcoming exams. The short-haired girl notices him stopping to stare intently at something across the street. The dark-haired girl walks by quietly, completely absorbed in her own thoughts. Seeing his reaction, the short-haired girl smiles knowingly as she approaches him from behind. She playfully asks if he likes Aaron that much, giving him a sudden fright that makes him jump in surprise. The classroom buzzes with anxiety as students rearrange their desks for the midterm exams. Sitting alone at her desk, the dark-haired girl silently suffers from intense pre-exam anxiety. Looking back at her, he reflects on not getting an answer before, but feels glad they are closer now. He notes their seats are far apart because his late transfer placed him last on the attendance roster. As he begins writing, his mind drifts back to a memory from 7th grade. Remembering when their exam seats were adjacent, she jokingly suggests they create secret hand signals to help each other cheat. She quickly laughs it off as a joke, leaving him mildly concerned and asking for reassurance. Concentrating deeply, she repeatedly chants a mathematical formula to commit it to memory. The teacher suddenly reprimands her for keeping her notes out after the exam is officially started. When she panics and forgets the formula, he discreetly whispers it to her, saving her from distress. She jokingly laments not making those hand signals after all, which he silently dismisses with a laugh. Focused and determined, the dark-haired girl diligently writes down her answers on the exam. The school bell rings and the teacher announces they will begin collecting the exam papers. Mingyul gasps in sudden panic as he realizes the time has run out on him. Staring at his unfinished test, he laments how his chaotic transfer prevented him from studying properly. He looks over in her direction, anxiously wondering if she managed to do well on her test. The dark-haired girl keeps her head bowed, her face hidden behind her falling hair. She reflects on how she once believed filling out exam sheets would secure a bright future. To her, every completed bubble on the test represented another lantern lighting up her path forward. She details the immense effort she poured into memorization and solving problems just to keep those lanterns shining. Surrounded by the shadows of her peers, she sits completely defeated and isolated at her desk. Despite her desperate attempts to focus and solve the questions, she found herself completely stuck. Her mind went completely blank, leaving her feeling utterly foolish as she stared at the empty paper. One by one, the glowing lanterns of her imagined future began to flicker and die. The dark-haired girl stands frozen in the darkness, overwhelmed by a deep sense of despair. Watching her dreams fade away, she felt utterly lost and unable to move forward with her life. She concludes that abandoning her hopes and future is the only way to escape her self-hatred. Sifting back to the present, Mingyul offers his help and asks if she wants to study together again. She looks up at him with wide, vulnerable eyes, silently wondering if it would really be okay. Suddenly, a classmate bursts into the room excitedly announcing the arrival of the exam answer key. The classroom erupts into chaotic chatter as students compare their answers to the newly delivered key. Mingyul looks down quietly, feeling anxious about his own performance on the exam. Looking over to her corner, he realizes her desk is empty and wonders if she already left. Mingyul bumps into Aaron near the school entrance and gasps in surprise. Mingyul blushes and asks her if she has not left for home yet. Looking down, Aaron quietly admits that she was just lingering around. Mingyul shifts his gaze slightly, feeling a bit flustered and sweating. Looking at Aaron, Mingyul wonders if she was actually waiting for him. Comically hitting his forehead, Mingyul tells himself to stop getting ahead of himself. Blushing deeply, Mingyul hesitantly asks Aaron if she wants to walk home together. Clasping her arms, Aaron slowly nods her head in agreement. A sudden whoosh sounds as a white car speeds past him on the sidewalk. Wondering how to start a conversation, Mingyul asks her how she did on the midterm exams. Aaron gloomily admits she did poorly, prompting Mingyul to apologize as he remembers she stopped studying. Mingyul asks if she thought about his previous proposal to help her study. Aaron stops walking, looking down as she softly confesses that she is scared. Aaron confesses she fears she will tell him everything and become too dependent on him. Turning back to her, Mingyul gently tells her she does not need to be afraid. Mingyul steps closer and reassures her she can tell him everything and depend on him. Aaron asks if he will still be kind after hearing everything, and Mingyul promises he will. Aaron looks down and asks if he would still care even if she did something horrible. Mingyul asks what she means as Aaron suddenly leans her head against his chest. Mingyul stands frozen in complete shock, his eyes wide in disbelief. A soft rustle sounds as Aaron flinches while resting her forehead against him. Aaron looks up slightly and murmurs that she already knew he would react this way. Pulling away, Aaron clasps her arms and asks if her confession was too much. A light patter of footsteps sounds as Aaron runs away, telling him to forget her words. Aaron steps onto the crosswalk, completely unaware of a car approaching, prompting Mingyul to shout a warning. A loud honk blares as the car's headlights illuminate Aaron, who freezes in terror. A loud zoom sounds as the dark car speeds past on the road. Panting heavily, Mingyul sits on the pavement holding Erin tightly in his arms. Mingyul looks down at her in sheer panic, desperately asking if she is okay. Trembling violently, Erin clutches his arms as she sits huddled in his lap. Mingyul looks at her in surprise, wondering if the near accident shook her up this badly. Soft sniffling sounds as Erin breaks down in tears while Mingyul holds her close. Mingyul looks down at her with a deeply worried and sympathetic expression. Clutching her tighter, Mingyul resolves that he will protect her no matter what she did. Looking down at her tear-stained face, Mingyul gently asks once more if she is all right.
Crying softly, Erin apologizes and suggests they should keep things exactly as they are.
From a high angle, Mingyul cradles Erin on the sidewalk and tells her to just lean on him. Mingyul holds her close, whispering that even if she did do something terrible, he promises that they will keep her secret together. Erin looks up at him with wide, tearful eyes, completely stunned by his words. Looking at her with absolute determination, Mingyul vows that he will never abandon her. Embracing her, Mingyul resolves to stay by her side even if everyone else turns against him. Standing nearby, the short-haired girl in the green track jacket spots them and gasps in surprise. Mingyul stands outside the school gate looking back at the building. The short-haired girl notices him and wonders if he is headed home. Raising her hand, she excitedly plans to go over and greet him. She stops in her tracks as she sees Erin standing next to him. She watches them from a distance, realizing in surprise that Erin is with him. Other classmates express their surprise at how close Mingyul seems to be with Erin. She listens with a conflicted expression as her classmates gossip maliciously about Mingyul's intentions. The short-haired girl in the green track jacket reflects that Mingyul has nothing to gain from being close to Erin. In a bittersweet memory, Mingyul wishes that Erin could smile just like she used to. He remembers his past desire to become someone worthy of standing by her side. Shifting back to the present, the short-haired girl looks down with a quiet, troubled expression. Sitting on her bed, the short-haired girl realizes warning Mingyul is useless because he must believe in Erin's innocence. A soft thud sounds as she falls back onto her bed, contemplating what would happen next. Lying down, she wonders if Mingyul would distance himself if he discovered Erin was not innocent. She recalls asking him if he had followed Erin, prompting a defensive look from him. Staring at the ceiling, she concludes that staying close to Erin is an incredibly dangerous thing. A sharp, aching feeling lingers as a text on the smartphone screen asks if Erin made it home safe. Mingyul stares anxiously at his phone, swallowing nervously as he waits for a response. Sitting at his desk, Mingyul tells himself she won't respond immediately and to stop worrying. A sudden loud buzz sounds as his phone vibrates, startling him so much he almost drops it. Slumping face down onto his desk, Mingyul lets out a heavy sigh, unable to focus on anything else. In a brief memory, Mingyul recalls calling out to Erin as she walked down the street. Walking alongside her, Mingyul gathers the courage to ask if her phone number is still the same. Surprised, Erin agrees to share her number, making him internally celebrate with excitement. As they swap phones, Mingyul offers his constant support and she quietly accepts. He hesitates to speak further, prompting a curious and quiet look from her. Looking down, Erin asks if he would still be willing to tutor her after school. Mingyul blushes and excitedly recalls promising her they would start studying together tomorrow. Staring at his notebooks, he plans to review basic 10th grade concepts to match her learning pace. He decides to start with math when a sudden buzz from his phone interrupts his thoughts. Mingyul looks down at his phone screen, his eyes wide with nervous anticipation. Shifting locations, Mingyul walks through the doorway of his home, feeling tired and weary. He greets his mother, who warmly welcomes him home and mentions she already ordered dinner. Mingyul reacts in shock at the mention of an academy, while his mother questions his attitude. Serving the food, his mother reminds him of her warning regarding his exam scores. When she points out his drop in grades, he defensively argues that exams are not even finished. His mother counters that his core subject grades are enough, emphasizing that senior year leaves no time to waste. He gasps in disbelief when his mother orders him to attend an academy starting tomorrow. Mingyul protests that he has plans, but his father tells him to listen to his mother. Mingyul sits in silent distress while his parents casually discuss coming back to the restaurant. Face down on his bed, Mingyul complains that his grades barely dropped and it was just an excuse. Mingyul lies awake in his dark bedroom, staring gloomily as his phone rests beside him. A sudden bright glow illuminates the dark room as his smartphone screen suddenly lights up. Mingyul sits up and grabs the glowing phone in the dark, wondering who texted him. The screen reveals a message from Erin, apologizing for sleeping and asking if he got home safely. A sudden gasp sounds as Mingyul sits bolt upright, completely startled by her text message. Mingyul blushes deeply, absolutely thrilled by her reply and finding her text incredibly adorable. Sitting on his bed, he nervously debates whether to mention their study plans or wait to reply. He decides against mentioning the academy, fearing she might feel guilty and cancel their tutoring session. He realizes explaining the situation over a text message would be far too long and complicated. Mingyul stares down in silent hesitation, trying to find a better way to communicate with her. Meanwhile, Erin sits up in her dark room, startled as her phone begins to ring. Her eyes widen in surprise as she stares blankly at the incoming call screen. Mingyul calls her and asks if she can talk, to which she quietly answers that it is fine. He asks what she was doing, and she explains she was about to fall back asleep. He tentatively brings up their study plans, asking if they can reschedule to a different time. When she asks for a time, he suggests studying before homeroom due to his new academy schedule. When Erin admits she isn't a morning person, Mingyul flusteredly wonders how they should handle rescheduling their study session. Erin hesitantly begins to ask for a favor, expressing guilt over complicating their study arrangement. Mingyul warmly reassures her that it is fine and gently encourages her to speak her mind. He is completely stunned when Erin suggests they meet up to study over the weekend instead. Overjoyed, Mingyul eagerly agrees to the weekend study plan while Erin expresses her gratitude for his flexibility. Feeling ecstatic about having an excuse to see her on the weekend, he promises to stay in touch. When Erin asks if that was his only reason for calling, Mingyul sheepishly confirms it was. They bid each other goodnight and the screen goes dark as the call is disconnected. After hanging up, Mingyul worries if his phone call was too abrupt, feeling a sudden wave of uneasiness. Mingyul lies awake in his room, unable to stop thinking about his conversation with Erin. A gentle warmth washes over Mingyul as he stares at his phone, feeling content with their plan. Nearby, in her own room, Gina lies awake in the dark, staring silently at her phone. A frustrated sigh escapes Gina as she tosses and turns in her bed, unable to sleep. Gina aggressively rubs her temples, clearly troubled by her racing thoughts about Mingyul and Erin. Staring at the ceiling, Gina laments that she is now completely wide awake with no hope of sleeping. At the local academy building the next day, a voice calls out to Mingyul as he arrives. The academy teacher welcomes Mingyul and notes the facility's small size, which he politely downplays despite agreeing internally. The teacher hands him a test packet to work on, instructing him to complete it by 7 o'clock. As the teacher points out the snacks, another student opens the door and greets her. The teacher pleasantly greets the newcomer, realizing both students attend Songgak High School. Mingyul is surprised to see Gina standing in the doorway as the teacher introduces her. Mingyul stares back at her, completely caught off guard by her sudden presence at the academy. Gina stands frozen, her cheeks flushing red as her mind starts to race in disbelief. During the class, the teacher writes on the whiteboard, asking the students to name the elements of narrative. While the teacher instructs the class to take notes, Gina can only focus on Mingyul sitting nearby. Sitting a few rows away, Mingyul rests his chin on his hand, looking completely lost in thought. Gina grips her pen tightly, a sudden, alarming theory taking shape in her mind. Her hand slips in shock as she wonders if Mingyul tracked her down to this academy on purpose. Shaking her head, Gina quickly scribbles out her mistake, telling herself he has absolutely no reason to follow her. Hearing her struggle, Mingyul leans over and kindly offers to let her borrow his correction tape. Startled by his sudden voice, Gina turns around to look at him in surprise. A soft tap sounds as she hesitantly accepts the correction tape from his outstretched hand. Blushing deeply, Gina wonders why Mingyul was watching her so closely as she looks down at her notebook. She recalls his pure past determination to transform himself into someone worthy of standing by Erin's side. Staring blankly, she reflects on how deeply his feelings for Erin have shaped the person he is today. Gina rolls the correction tape, realizing his kindness is a trait he worked tirelessly to develop just to get closer to Erin. Walking down the hall together, Mingyul admits he was genuinely surprised to learn they go to the same academy. Gina questions how he ended up there, prompting Mingyul to explain that his parents made the choice. A soft ding echoes from the elevator as Gina explains she only recently enrolled at the start of senior year. Mingyul jokingly suggests they hang out since she probably doesn't have many friends there, which she defensively denies. Relieved, Mingyul beams happily, admitting he was worried about not having any close friends at the new academy. Gina glances at his bright, warm smile, her initial irritation softening into a quiet blush. Sitting together outside, Gina mentions hearing rumors of his stellar academic reputation from his previous school in Seoul. Mingyul explains he ended up here because his parents forced him to switch after his grades dropped, which secretly irritates Gina. Mingyul quietly reflects that he has been far too distracted since his transfer, causing his performance to suffer. Gina immediately connects his distraction to Erin, realization settling in as she looks down at her lap. Mingyul is caught off guard when Gina mentions seeing him walking home with Erin the other day. After Mingyul explains it just worked out, Gina quietly asks if Erin is doing well. He remembers Erin's text message confirming her availability on the weekend. Gina watches in complete confusion as Mingyul suddenly beams with excitement at the mere mention of the weekend. Gina's hands are clasped tightly behind her back as she struggles with whether she should warn Mingyul about the gossip surrounding Erin. Mingyul turns his head in mild confusion, wondering what she's trying to ask him. Gina looks at him intently and poses a hypothetical question, asking what he would do if Erin confessed to him first. Startled by her sudden query, Mingyul blushes and demands why she is asking, while Gina firmly presses him for a serious answer. Mingyul turns his head away, his cheeks flushed with embarrassment, quietly admitting that he doesn't know. Grayscale transitions to a memory of Erin sitting on a bench drinking from a juice box. Gina immediately clarifies her true meaning, indicating she wasn't asking about a romantic confession. Gina poses a darker scenario, asking if he would cover for Erin or report her to the police if she confessed to murder. Stunned, Mingyul questions why she would ever ask such a thing, but Gina holds her head defensively and defends her query. Gina bluntly tells him she doesn't understand his blind support for Aaron, noting that everyone else feels the same way. Mingyul quickly protests, explaining that Aaron is pushed to her mental limit and simply needs someone to lean on. Gina aggressively points out that such vulnerability makes the situation dangerous, as Aaron will inevitably lean on him. Gina warns him that their relationship looks bizarre to others, prompting an exasperated Mingyul to ask what he should do instead. When Mingyul sarcastically asks if he should just ignore her like everyone else, Gina flinches in guilt. The bus arrival sign blinks as Gina explains that overwhelming Aaron with affection might actually burden her. Mingyul asks if she is already assuming Aaron is guilty, questioning why she refuses to believe in her innocence. Gina challenges his unwavering trust, pointing out that everyone else believes Aaron did it, causing Mingyul to react in shock and anger. Clenching his fist tightly, Mingyul angrily dismisses the accusations as mere rumors and asks if she actually believes them. Gina retorts defensively, pointing out that Mingyul himself didn't witness the event firsthand. Mingyul looks back with a cold, sharp expression, telling her that the exact same logic applies to her. Heavy, chilling silence falls over the bus stop as both sit frozen, refusing to look at each other. Dejected, Mingyul turns his head and quietly offers an apology. Gina looks at him in surprise, expressing regret for snapping, while Mingyul admits he got too emotional. Smiling humorously but with lingering tension, Mingyul remarks he should have been rational while Gina notices his foul mood. Mingyul looks down thoughtfully, preparing to share something from the past. Mingyul explains that rumors say the victim had a massive argument with Aaron shortly before he died. Gina listens closely as he reveals that students from Yusok High School were the ones who told him. A brief memory shows Aaron screaming furiously and pointing in anger, a rare outburst according to witnesses. Mingyul notes the tragedy occurred less than a day after their fight, prompting a look of realization from Gina. Gina stands up as the bus approaches, confirming her theory that Aaron could have been involved, leaving Mingyul speechless. Stepping onto the bus, Gina urges him to focus on his grades in their senior year rather than getting distracted. Mingyul stands alone on the street as the bus rumbles away, leaving him in deep thought. Grayscale returns to his thoughts as he remembers the claim about Aaron's massive fight before the boy's death. Sitting on the bus, Gina gazes blankly out the window as her reflection stares back at her. Gina closes her eyes in deep regret, wishing she hadn't blurted out those harsh words without any proof. Gina recalls his pained reaction when he asked if he was supposed to just ignore Aaron's suffering. Gina squeezes her eyes shut, feeling incredibly guilty about how their conversation ended. The bus travels down the winding mountain road, disappearing into the quiet evening. On the weekend, Mingyul walks through a quiet neighborhood, checking his phone to find their meeting spot. Checking his messages, he confirms the secluded cafe location while waiting for Aaron, who texted that she would be late. Grayscale recalls Gina's frustrating question about why he is the only one who believes in Aaron's innocence. A memory flashes of a boy with glasses walking away and apologizing to another student. Mingyul stares blankly, a lingering pang of emotional pain passing through him as he remembers the past. Shaking off the heavy memories, Mingyul resolves not to dwell on the past as he continues walking. He glances back in surprise as an elderly woman walking with a cane drops something. Mingyul looks down to see a small, dark wallet lying on the pavement near his shoe. Mingyul calls out to get the attention of the person who dropped it. A young girl with short, dark hair and a pink backpack turns around in surprise. Running up to her, a young Mingyul breathlessly holds out the pink wallet to return it. The young girl excitedly thanks him for returning her lost wallet, explaining she dropped it near the crosswalk. Young Gina holds up her pink wallet and beams happily, thanking him for returning it. Young Mingyul stands frozen in place, his cheeks flushed bright red with sheer embarrassment. Watching her walk away, young Mingyul notes to himself that she appears his age. Listening to her music player, Gina walks down the path with a cheerful smile. Standing near the school building, young Mingyul wonders if they attend the same school. He reflects on his past, recalling how quiet and inconspicuous he used to be. A student proudly shows off a rare card, absolutely amazed by its special effect. He came and shows off his new card to classmates, who enthusiastically express their jealousy. Sitting alone at his desk, young Mingyul watches them with a deep sense of isolation. Jinsu shows Mingyul his cards, asking if he collects them, but Mingyul politely declines. Jinsu looks slightly disappointed, expressing his pity that Mingyul does not share his hobby. Jinsu looks down at his cards, wishing he had a rare one to show off. In the background, class boys continue to cheer loudly around Heyman and his cards. Jinsu glances back at Mingyul, highlighting their mutual exclusion from the energetic group. Walking down the hallway, young Mingyul overhears classmates once again praising Heyman's luck. In the corridor, Heyman boasts that he found his rare card at the playground. Classmates regret not visiting the playground sooner, staring at the glittering card in envy. Staring in complete shock, young Mingyul immediately recognizes the rare card shown in the hallway. Back in class, Jinsu turns around in surprise when Mingyul suddenly calls his name. Mingyul hesitantly asks Jinsu about the special card he wanted to show off yesterday. Jinsu flinches in sudden shock, a nervous sweat breaking out across his face. Jinsu nervously avoids eye contact, claiming he simply gave his rare card to a friend. Mingyul looks on in surprise as Heyman suddenly grabs Jinsu by the shoulder. Dragging Jinsu away to eat, Heyman calls out to Mingyul that they are leaving. In the hallway, Heyman aggressively demands to know what Mingyul wants to tell him. Mingyul hesitantly asks Heyman where he really obtained the rare metallic warrior card. Heyman defensively insists he found it at the playground, while Mingyul demands the truth. Mingyil directly presses him, asking if he is absolutely sure the card isn't Jinsu's. Heyman glares in fury, aggressively asking if Mingyil is accusing him of stealing. Pointing out the identical scratch, Mingyil is silenced as Heyman violently grabs his shirt. Gripping Mingyil's collar, a furious Heyman demands to know if he wants to die. Nearby students panic and shout that a fight is broken out, calling for help. Heyman aggressively looms over Mingyil, insulting him and repeating his dangerous threat. Gina suddenly runs up and screams at Heyman, demanding that he stop this immediately. Heyman grumbles in frustration as Gina forcefully pulls his arm away from Mingyil. Leaving a terrified Mingyil gasping on the floor, Heyman walks away with a final threat. Kneeling down in deep concern, Gina asks Mingyil if he is all right. Gina offers to accompany him to the infirmary while other students watch from a distance. Back at his desk, Mingyil wonders how he can return the card to Jinsu. Hearing his friends call him for soccer, Heyman quickly responds and prepares to head out. Heyman's locker swings open, spilling books and loose cards onto the floor as he runs. Mingyil stands alone, his heart pounding in anxiety as he stares at the open locker. An empty classroom is shown as a voice calls out Jinsu's name. The class gathers as the teacher stands at the front with a crying Heyman. Sniffling and crying, Heyman rubs his nose while standing before the silent classroom. The teacher spots Mingyil and instructs him to take a seat and close his eyes. The teacher announces that Heyman's card went missing yesterday, urging the thief to confess.
Panicked, Mingyil realizes the teacher is about to search everyone's bags one by one.
The teacher sternly confronts Mingyil, asking why his hands are not on his head. Despair washes over Mingyil as the teacher decides to search his bag first. A hand pulls the shiny metallic warrior card out from a dark backpack. The teacher holds the card in front of a shocked, sweating young Mingyil, demanding to know what it is. As classmates whisper accusations of theft around him, young Mingyil nervously stutters that he did not steal the card. Mingyil tries to explain that the card belonged to Jinsu and he was only attempting to return it after Heyman took it. Holding the card, the teacher turns to Jinsu and directly asks him if Mingyil's explanation is true. Jinsu looks up with a blank expression and completely denies Mingyil's claim. Jinsu lies, claiming he gifted the card to Heyman and suggesting that Mingyil simply stole it because he wanted it. The teacher orders Mingyil to stay after class as a dark period of his school life begins. A classroom textbook is slammed down on the desk, ending in a sharp slap. Heyman snatches Mingyil's textbook away, taunting him to try and take it back as another classmate laughs. As Mingyil struggles to retrieve his book, Heyman loudly accuses him of trying to steal it again. Mingyil watches helplessly, weakly protesting that the book actually belongs to him. Jinsu catches the notebook with a quick tat as it is thrown toward him. Mingyil approaches Jinsu, pleading with him to return his textbook. Jinsu flings the textbook out of the open window with a swift whoosh. Jinsu mutters an insincere apology before walking off with a laughing Heyman, leaving Mingyil stunned. Mingyil retrieves his soaking wet textbook, bitterly realizing he's being punished for meddling in Jinsu's life. A female classmate raises her hand, loudly requesting a seat change because she fears Mingyil will steal from her. The teacher reprimands the girl before asking the class who would like to switch seats with her. Young Gina steps forward with a warm, friendly smile and sits next to Mingyil, greeting him cheerfully. Mingyil quietly responds as the teacher instructs the class to open their Korean textbooks. Noticing his lack of a book, Gina kindly offers to share her textbook with him. Gina slides her desk closer with a sharp scrape, reassuring him that it is fine. Mingyil wonders internally if she is not worried that he might steal her textbook too. Gina looks at him with genuine confusion, asking why she would ever be worried about that. Gina explains that she remembers his defense about only wanting to return the card to Jinsu. Mingyil asks if she actually believes him, and she simply and warmly confirms that she does. Overwhelmed with emotion, Mingyil internally questions why she would choose to believe him. Gina rests her chin in her hand, smiling warmly at him with a bright sparkle. Mingyil stares back at her, his eyes wide with a mixture of shock and quiet gratitude. The two sit side by side as a gentle breeze blows leaves past the sunny classroom window. In the present, Mingyil thanks Arn for the coffee while she expresses her gratitude for his weekend help. Mingyil pulls out his study materials and asks if they should begin with math, which Aaron agrees to. Mingyil proudly presents a fully planned study curriculum, leaving a slightly overwhelmed Arn speechless. Mingyil begins by asking Aaron if she remembers the basic concept of limits of functions. Aaron diligently takes notes while Mingyil rests his head in his hand with a sigh. Mingyil suddenly pauses and glances over his shoulder, checking on Arin's progress in her notebook. Mingyil gazes at her with deep concern, silently wondering if she is truly doing all right. Aaron sits hunched over her textbook, her face shielded by her gray baseball cap. Mingyil blinks in surprise as a sudden thought about her behavior crosses his mind. A memory of Arin in her school uniform shows her writing intensely at her desk. Mingyil stares intently, his mind trailing off as he thinks about Aaron's state. Aaron looks up from under her cap, her tired eyes revealing heavy dark circles. Aaron asks if there is something on her face, prompting a blushing Mingyil to quickly deny it. Aaron hands her open textbook to Mingyil, asking him to review a difficult problem. Mingyil notes it is a tricky problem, secretly finding her cute cat doodles in the margin endearing. Mingyil asks if she remembers calculus differentiation, but Aren sheepishly admits that she does not. Mingyil begins explaining the concept of differentiation while background patrons discuss their upcoming mock exams. Erin pulls her cap down lower over her eyes, quietly responding to his explanation. Mingyul pauses, looking at her with a slightly confused and questioning expression. Mingyul notices high school girls in the cafe and wonders if they go to his school. Erin hides under her cap while Mingyul watches her, realizing something about her behavior. Mingyul reflects on Erin's habit of avoiding school crowds and choosing secluded cafes. Erin remains deeply focused on her studies, keeping her cap low over her face. Standing near a bridge, Mingyul asks Erin how her tutoring session went today. Erin expresses her gratitude for his help while Mingyul encourages her to keep studying. Mingyul suddenly gasps as he spots something interesting further down the walking path. Mingyul points out a nearby food truck and asks Erin if she wants some food. Erin hesitates, watching a happy couple enjoy their food near the busy truck. Erin declines the food and pulls her cap down, leaving Mingyul slightly surprised. A loud growl from Erin's stomach breaks the silence, leaving both of them highly embarrassed. Mingyul checks on her, but a blushing Erin stubbornly claims she will eat at home. Mingyul sadly realizes that Erin despises crowded places even more than he initially thought. A sudden realization dawns on Mingyul as he looks at her with wide eyes. He recalls a past warning about how others might judge their complicated relationship. He remembers his classmates warning him that getting close to her would only bring pain. Mingyul looks down in solemn contemplation, weighed down by the bitter memories of school. Mingyul wonders if Erin is avoiding crowds purely to protect his feelings from public scrutiny. Mingyul decides she shouldn't have to hide, catching her off guard with his sudden voice. Joyful laughter echoes from a nearby park where children are happily riding on the swings. Mingyul surprises Erin by asking if she wants to ride the empty playground swings. Erin blushes deeply and turns away silently, unable to hide her inner desire to play. Mingyul gently teases her silence, pointing out that she clearly wants to ride the swings. Mingyul looks at her with a gentle, soft gaze filled with sincere warmth. Mingyul leans in close and warmly offers to push her on the swing. Erin worries about onlookers, but Mingyul quickly reassures her that everything is perfectly fine. Mingyul smiles brightly and gently assures her that no one else will care. Erin stares back at him, her expression a mix of surprise and quiet hope. Erin sits on the swing as Mingyul asks if she is comfortable with the height. Erin closes her eyes, letting the gentle breeze wash over her face on the swing. The swing suddenly flies high into the air with a powerful soaring motion. Her cap begins to slip off as the wind rushes past her face. Mingyul tells her to hold on tight as he prepares to push her even harder. Erin tightly shuts her eyes as she experiences the thrilling rush of the swing. The wind finally sweeps her cap away, letting her short dark hair blow freely. With her cap gone, Erin looks ahead with an expression of pure freedom and joy. Mingyul panics as he realizes he might have pushed her a bit too hard. A sudden crash echoes through the playground, shocking Mingyul as he looks ahead in horror. Mingyul screams her name in panic as he sees Erin collapsed on the ground. Erin clutches her foot in pain, groaning from the sudden impact of her fall. Sitting together on a ledge, Erin admits she twisted her aching ankle during the fall. Mingyul apologizes deeply for getting carried away, but Erin quickly tells him it is fine. Erin looks down and gently smiles, insisting to him that she is completely fine. Mingyul is surprised when Erin softly admits that she actually had a lot of fun. Mingyul happily notes that this is the first genuine smile he has seen since their reunion. Mingyul slaps himself in guilt for smiling while she is injured, leaving Erin deeply confused. Mingyul offers to fetch medicine and drinks, but Erin questions what she should do. As Mingyul turns to leave for the store, Erin suddenly grabs his plaid shirt. Erin holds onto him and quietly asks if he can just stay with her instead. Erin looks up with pleading eyes, softly begging him not to leave her alone. Mingyul blushes deeply, caught off guard by her sudden plea to stay by her side. The two sit together in awkward silence beneath the shade of a large playground tree. Erin determinedly pushes herself up, insisting that she is still capable of walking on her own. She wobbles precariously while claiming she is fine, prompting him to ask if she is truly all right. Her bravado crumbles as she instantly loses her balance and begins to fall forward again. She cries out in pain as she falls, prompting him to rush over and gently scold her. Mingyul silently notes the fading light and worries that she must be getting hungry. A sudden resolution forms in his mind as he looks down at her with quiet determination. Mingyul softly calls her name, drawing her attention as she sits on the ground. Crouching down in front of her, he presents his back and prepares to carry her. Erin looks down shyly, noting that the temperature will drop if they remain outside any longer. He firmly offers to carry her home before the night gets too cold and late. A gentle breeze blows through the open window of a classroom, rustling the curtains as a classmate asks, "Erin, what's your ideal type?" Hearing the question, a young Mingyul looks down with a nervous expression, a bead of sweat on his face. Outside the window, a group of girls are chatting, and one replies, "My ideal type? I've never really thought about it." Her friends eagerly press her, saying, "Come on, Gina told us hers, tell us." Inside, Mingyul cleans the windowsill, wondering to himself, "Is it okay for me to listen to this?" When a girl's voice asks, "Then is there anyone you like at our school?" Mingyul flinches mid-wipe. Erin ponders, "Someone I like?" Hearing this, Mingyul's heart beats rapidly in anticipation as Erin hesitates and says, there's no one." With a bright, sunny smile, Erin adds, "Like that." While her classmate asks, "Aw, no one?" Mingyul continues to watch from the window. Erin explains her simple preferences, saying, I like nice people, someone kind with a good personality. Her friends tease, that's way too basic. What about looks? Anything like that? Erin taps her chin thoughtfully and repeats, looks? Min-gil listens intently with wide eyes as Erin continues, I think I like someone reliable and strong. Clasping her hands together happily, Erin says, someone who can protect me when it's dangerous and someone I can always lean on. Wouldn't that be cool? Back home, Min-gil looks in the mirror, staring disappointedly at his slender, weak arms. Determined to get stronger, he struggles on his bedroom floor trying to do push-ups, sweating as he counts 1, 2. Exhausted and discouraged, he collapses on his bed and covers his face, thinking, I'm doomed. I'm so weak. The next day during gym class, the teacher calls out, all right, start practicing with your partner. Min-gil's assigned partner looks back at him with an annoyed click of his tongue. Standing back to back, his partner commands, I'll go first, okay? No objections, right? To which Min-gil meekly replies, yeah, as the other kids begin practicing lifting each other. Suddenly, Min-gil is effortlessly lifted into the air, letting out a startled cry of, whoa! Hanging upside down, Min-gil flails as a classmate laughs, what the? Haha, and Min-gil is freaking light. Embarrassed, Min-gil pleads, put me down. But his partner jokingly replies, get down yourself. Hearing the commotion, the gym teacher blows his whistle and orders, stop messing around and do it right, while another student notes how strong Bae Kai-min is. Later, Min-gil waters the plants outside, feeling dejected. He thinks, whatever, it's not like it's the first time I've looked foolish. Suddenly, Erin approaches with her backpack and asks, Min-gil, aren't you going home? Blushing and startled, Min-gil quickly turns and replies, oh, I have plant watering duty today. Watching her closely, Min-gil wonders in surprise why she is lingering around, questioning if there might be a reason. Plucking up his courage, Min-gil offers, do you want to try watering them? To which Erin excitedly responds with sparkling eyes, really? I want to try. Erin holds the blue watering can and asks, do I water it like this, Min-gil? And he smiles back, encouraging her. Yeah, you're doing great. Erin turns to him to ask, I'm not getting in your way, am I? And Min-gil quickly assures her, no, not at all. I'm actually grateful for the help. Standing side by side, Erin looks at Min-gil as he lifts a large flower pot, remarking, you're stronger than you look, Min-gil. Flustered and blushing red, Min-gil stammers, quote, huh, me? Erin replies, yeah, isn't that flower pot heavy? I guess it's because you're a boy, you lift it so easily. Suddenly, she gets an idea and says, oh, I know, let's try that one thing. She happily stands back to back with him, linking her arms with his as she suggests, the thing we did in gym class, try lifting me, Min-gil. Min-gil hesitates and asks, are you sure? But Erin reassures him, it's fine. You don't have to apologize even if we fall, since I'm the one who asked. Min-gil firmly grips her hands behind his back, asking, are you ready? With a bright red blush on his face, Min-gil musters all his strength and replies, yeah. Min-gil bends forward and successfully lifts Erin off the ground, causing her to gasp in surprise. Whoa! Years later, the memory of that day remains clear, as Erin is carried on Min-gil's back under the sky. Walking down the street, Min-gil looks back in surprise, asking, huh? Erin hugs his neck and asks, am I not heavy? Min-gil smiles gently and replies, nope, not at all. You really need to eat more. Min-gil looks at her with concern, asking, aren't you cold, Erin? Your clothes look a bit thin. Erin looks down with a quiet, thoughtful expression as they continue walking. After they stop, Min-gil kneels down to tend to Erin while she sits on the ground. Erin stares at him with wide, startled eyes, touched by his kind gesture. She quickly gets up, feeling flustered, and insists, I'm fine. I told you I can walk. Erin tries to walk away, saying, I've already held you up so much. We can't miss the last bus, while Min-gil looks on with deep concern. Min-gil looks at her and gently asks, is the reason you want to walk? He looks directly at her worried face and asks, because you're worried we'll stand out too much? Standing under the twilight sky, Erin looks down and mutters, it's not really that. Min-gil probes further, asking, then what is it? With a deeply concerned look, Erin confesses, if the other kids see you with me, I'm worried it'll cause trouble for you, Min-gil. Min-gil steps forward and firmly tells her, Erin, hold on. Before she can react, Min-gil swiftly scoops her up onto his back, causing her to cry out in shock. Whoa! Min-gil smiles warmly as he carries her forward, saying, up we go. See, you're not heavy at all, while Erin looks at him in utter amazement. If that's your only reason, then I definitely have to carry you. I don't care what the other kids say about us being together. It doesn't bother me one bit. In fact, if they whisper behind our backs, for all to see, I'll carry you around ostentatiously.
Can you adjust me? I want to hold on properly. You're so tall, it's giving me vertigo. Ah, right, sorry.
Suddenly, a loud engine roars as a large bus speeds past them on the quiet road. Isn't that the last bus? Hold on, let me check. It was the last bus. What should we do? My place is within walking distance, but can you walk to your house, Aaron? It takes about an hour on foot, but it's not impossible. A long, dark road stretches ahead, quiet and empty, flanked on both sides by dense trees and bushes under a clear night sky. You need to get to Hanbo Apartment Complex 5, right? Yeah, let's walk together, especially since your leg is hurt. Come on, get on. No, it'll be too hard on you. I can walk. That road is dangerous. There's no sidewalk or streetlight. But still, how can you carry me for a whole hour? But if you get hurt again because of me, as the one who caused it, I'd feel so... Then let's go like this. Is this okay? Hold on to me if you feel like you're gonna fall. They begin walking side by side on the dark pathway, their soft footsteps echoing in the quiet night. Walking hand in hand under the twilight, the quiet evening air feels heavy with unspoken thoughts. As they walk side by side, a quiet, comfortable silence settles between them, though both can feel their hearts racing. Their hands remain firmly locked together as they walk, the warmth of their touch speaking louder than any words. Min-gil looks ahead, trying to compose his racing thoughts while keeping a firm grip on Aaron's hand. It's really dark. There aren't even any cars, so it's incredibly quiet. Are my hands getting sweaty? Is this okay? Yeah, it's my first time walking it. I only ever saw it from the bus. Oh, right. We used to pass by here on the bus in middle school, didn't we? Yeah, and you got off 3 stops away. Didn't we start getting close back then, in middle school? No, we've been close since elementary school. Did that count as being close? What do you mean? That hurts. Was I the only one who thought we were close? No, I thought I was the only one who felt that way. But I think I started seeing you differently in middle school. Huh? Seeing me differently? How? No, nothing, I misspoke. Ouch. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. I'm not hurt. Since people don't walk here, it's not maintained. The path is rough, so be careful. Maybe we should turn on a phone flashlight. It might be safer than holding hands. Your battery is low. You should save it. I don't mind if I get a dead battery. Actually, it's more like, I prefer walking like this. Let's do that. Yeah, my eyes adjusting helps me see anyway. And just in case, saving the battery is probably smart. Whoa, are you okay? Let's catch our breath for a second. Okay. You couldn't really see them when you lived in Seoul, right? Yeah, that's true. Stars shine brighter the darker it gets. How is your life there? I'm only just asking you this now. It's already been weeks since we reunited after 5 years. I'm sorry, I was really curious. No, don't be. Min-gil pauses for a moment, looking down thoughtfully as memories of his time away begin to surface. And there were so many new, exciting things. The best part was having the goal of going to the same university as you. The thought of meeting you there in the future was the most exciting thing in my life. Being able to see you again like this makes me truly grateful. Aaron keeps her head lowered, overwhelmed by Min-gil's heartfelt confession as a deep emotion builds up inside her. How can you be so good to me? Min-gil's eyes widen slightly in surprise, touched by the vulnerability in her voice. Is actually what I've wanted to ask you my entire life. Aaron looks back with a bright, curious smile as she asks, why were you... Min-gil turns his head away slightly as a caption reads, my reason, and... Sweating and building up his courage, Min-gil opens his mouth as the narration panels state, the only reason I can think of. It's the only reason I have. He falters, whispering, because... In a bold, sudden declaration, Min-gil confesses, I like you, leaving Aaron completely stunned as they sit together in the quiet forest. Aaron's eyes widen in utter shock, a deep blush rushing to her face as his confession sinks in. Min-gil stares back with wide, anxious eyes, sweating profusely as he realizes what he just did. Panic setting in, Min-gil frantically turns away and thinks, did I just make a confession? Frantic thoughts race through Min-gil's mind as he thinks, when she asked why I'm so nice to her, I couldn't think of anything else, so I just blurted out the first thing that came to mind. What do I do? Aaron covers her face with her hand, completely flustered and blushing deeply in reaction to his unexpected confession. Regret washes over Min-gil as he sweat drops and thinks, I ruined everything. Look at this awkward silence. Min-gil suddenly flinches as a realization hits him, causing him to look down in surprise. Anxious thoughts swarm both of them as Aaron realizes, unconsciously I was still holding his hand, while Min-gil worries, what if her hand got sweaty? Min-gil gently attempts to pull his fingers away from Aaron's firm grasp. Min-gil looks down, his cheeks burning red with embarrassment. Turning to him with a worried and slightly blushing expression, Aaron asks, why are you pulling your hand away? Min-gil looks down shyly and meekly stammers, yeah. Aaron gently holds his hand back and assures him, mine is pretty sweaty too. Looking directly into Aaron's other's eyes, their faces flushed, Aaron reassures him. You're right, see? Holding his hand tightly in both of her hands, Aaron softly says, Your hand is warm, Mingyul. Mingyul looks at her with wide eyes and notices, Your hand is cold. Are you cold? To which Aaron quietly replies, Yeah, a little. Promptly taking off his jacket, Mingyul insists, I'm not that cold. Let me give you my jacket. Shaking her head slightly, Aaron replies, Instead of that, leaning close and holding his hand tightly, Aaron looks at Mingyul with a gentle blush and says, I think if we stay close. Mingyul looks at her with a racing heart and a deep blush as she finishes her sentence. It'll be warmer. The two of them sit closely on the rock, their hands locked tightly together. Mingyul turns his head slightly in profile, his face glowing bright red as he tries to process their closeness. Leaning against his arm, Aaron sits contentedly next to a flustered Mingyul under the twilight forest sky. Mingyul looks at her with wide, nervous eyes and stammers, My hands are sweaty. Aaron gazes up at him warmly and gently replies, No, it's not. It's warm. Mingyul looks down at her nervously and asks, Are you sure you're okay with me doing this? Aaron replies, Of course I am. I'm just worried you'll get cold. Aaron tilts her head up to look at him and softly asks, Really? Then she catches him off guard as she blushes and asks, Can I put your hand against my cheek? Mingyul slowly reaches out and places his hand against her soft cheek, holding it gently. Mingyul stares at her with wide, trembling eyes, his heart beating fast at the intimacy. He focuses on her, completely captivated by the moment. Aaron looks up at him with half-closed, affectionate eyes as he cups her face with both hands. Mingyul looks down at her with a deeply emotional and flushed expression. As he gently cradles her cheek, Mingyul thinks to himself, It's so soft and warm and wet. Suddenly blushing and flustered, Aaron pulls back slightly and stammers, Really? I knew I shouldn't have, before letting out a playful smile and teasing, I'm just kidding. Relieved but still incredibly flustered, Mingyul looks at her and asks, Are you cold? Aaron rests her face back into his hands, leaning in as she murmurs, A little cold. Mingyul's eyes widen once more, his breath catching in his throat at her sweet gesture. Mingyul gently brushes his thumb against her ear as he cups her face. The two look at each other with intense, quiet affection, their faces only inches apart. Leaning in closer, their blushes deepening, the distance between them completely disappears. Closing their eyes, they share a soft, tender kiss in the quiet evening. After the kiss, they sit side by side in absolute silence, both staring forward with wide eyes as they try to comprehend what just happened. Their faces are completely red and covered in sweat from the sheer embarrassment and excitement of their first kiss. Breaking the silence, Mingyul suddenly stands up and bolts forward, shouting, It's getting late, shall we head out? Aaron runs right beside him, replying, Yeah, let's go, while Mingyul adds, We're almost there, hang in there. As they run frantically hand in hand down the quiet road, Aaron suddenly points out, We're walking in the opposite direction, causing a flustered Mingyul to realize, Oh, you're right. Aaron asks, Is it this way? To which he replies, Yeah, this way, as they quickly turn around. Watch your step, Aaron, Mingyul calls out as they walk along the dark highway road at night. Aaron replies with a smile, Okay, don't worry, let's hurry. Walking under the faint glow of a lone streetlight beneath the dark, starry night sky, Mingyul looks around and wonders, Is this it? Yeah, I need to go that way, Mingyul says, pointing in one direction, while Aaron points the other way and says, And I go over there. Mingyul then urges her warmly, You'll catch a cold, hurry inside. As they stand there awkwardly, Aaron is overcome with nervous tension, thinking to herself, We didn't say a single word about what happened back there on the way here. This is driving me crazy. Mingyul blushes and nervously breaks the silence, stammering, Well, Mingyul turns to leave, bidding her a shy farewell. See you next week. Make sure you do your homework, okay? And Aaron softly responds, Yeah, I'll text you. Aaron begins to walk away into the quiet night, her body swaying slightly as if she is stumbling or exhausted under the heavy weight of her emotions. Mingyul watches her retreating figure with a look of quiet concern, worrying to himself, Can she get inside okay on her own? Unable to just let her walk away like that, Mingyul suddenly calls out Aaron, causing her to stop and turn back with wide, surprised eyes. Mingyul walks up to her with an earnest expression, offering, If you don't mind, let me walk you to your door. Surprised by his sudden kindness, Aaron blushes deeply and frantically waves her hands, insisting, Oh no, I'm fine, I can go by myself. Mingyul insists gently, But still, you hurt your leg because of me, just to your front door. But Aaron cuts him off with a panicked shout, No, don't come, causing him to flinch and freeze in his tracks. Turning her face away to hide her deep blush, Aaron nervously clutches her bag and stammers, I mean, it's really okay. Mingale stares at her blankly, completely stunned, as she quickly bids him goodbye. Sorry, I'm going in, leaving him to quietly reply, okay. Walking home under the night sky, Mingale trudges down the empty street with a heavy, dejected posture. As soon as he gets home, Mingale face plants onto his bed in a fit of absolute regret, screaming into his pillow, I shouldn't have said that at the end. Rolling over and clutching his face in deep embarrassment, he laments, I already knew she wouldn't like it. Everything went so well today. If only I hadn't pushed it at the very end, we could have ended on a good note. In his mind, he vividly remembers the intimate warmth of holding her hand tightly, their fingers locked together. He can still feel the soft, tender sensation of cradling her cheek in his hand as she leaned into his touch. Suddenly, Mingale sits bolt upright in bed, his eyes wide with a look of absolute shock as the memories overwhelm him. Clutching his forehead in a state of late-onset embarrassment, he panics. Crap, why did I keep touching her cheek just because she let me? What was I thinking? Why did I get so carried away and almost try to kiss her? He stares ahead blankly, remembering the sudden headlights of a passing bus and thinking, if only. Looking at the sink and mirror in the quiet bathroom, he continues to dwell on the moment, thinking, we hadn't been interrupted. Mingale splashes cold water onto his face, trying to wash away the overwhelming heat and racing thoughts. Resting his head down as water drips from his hair, he thinks with a heavy heart, still. Looking at his empty entryway where his bag and jacket lie on the floor, he reflects, even though I didn't get an answer to my confession, the fact that we held hands? Meanwhile, Erin stands in front of her bathroom mirror, slowly drying her damp hair with a towel, looking exhausted and deeply lost in her thoughts. Back in his room, Mingale forcefully slaps his own cheeks to wake himself up from his endless overthinking. He flops back onto his bed, burying his face as he tells himself, let's sleep. I need to sleep so I can stop overthinking. Lying on his back and staring blankly up at the ceiling, a heavy silence fills the room. Memories of what others had told him begin to flood his mind. She's pushed to her limit right now, so of course she's leaning on you. Acting like you want to date her might actually be an emotional burden to her right now. He remembers how Erin looked when she tearfully confessed her fears to him. When I'm with you, I'm scared I'll tell you everything and lean on you too much. It terrifies me. Mingale closes his eyes tightly, trying to make sense of the heavy emotional burden she is carrying. He opens his eyes, staring seriously into the dark as he reasons, but if our relationship deepens while I'm still completely in the dark? Remembering Erin sitting alone and dejected on a park bench, he realizes that will end up hurting her even more. Determined to find answers, Mingale reaches up to a bookshelf and pulls out an old school yearbook, thinking what happened to her and what she is so afraid of, until I understand everything. Flipping through the pages of the yearbook, he rests his hand on his chin and wonders, do I know anyone at USAC High School? Come to think of it, he looks at an old photo of 4 smiling middle school friends in the yearbook, labeled Friends Forever. He stares at the page thoughtfully, analyzing the situation. Since they aren't at Songak High School, unless they moved away, they're probably at USAC High School, right? Looking at the picture of his old friends, he remembers, since neither of them went to Palgok Middle School, we never ran into each other during middle school. Honestly, it'll be awkward to reach out after all this time. He looks back over his shoulder with a conflicted expression, thinking, the two of them aren't exactly people I'm comfortable with anymore. Holding the yearbook open, Mingale looks out the window at the starry night sky, whispering to himself, but maybe. Across town, Erin stands by her bedroom window, staring out at the same starry night sky with a sad and melancholic gaze. The next morning at school, Erin wears a face mask and coughs weakly into her hand as she enters the classroom. She walks over to her desk and sets her backpack down, thinking wearily, I couldn't sleep a wink, so I came to school way too early. Unable to sit in the empty classroom, she sits huddled on the school staircase, hugging her knees with a look of absolute exhaustion. She rests her head on her knees, her eyes filled with sadness as she tries to process her overwhelming feelings. In her mind, Mingale's heartfelt forest confession echoes vividly once more, because I like you. Hugging her legs tightly, she stares blankly ahead in frustration, thinking, why couldn't I say anything, like an idiot? Resting her forehead against her knees, her face flushes red with embarrassment as she asks herself, what am I doing right now? Looking down the quiet school staircase, she feels torn between 2 difficult choices. Either keep your distance and never see him again, or tell him everything and lean on him. Close-up of Erin's teary, melancholic eyes as she looks downcast, lost in her heavy thoughts. In her memories, a young boy with freckles wipes sweat and blood from his face, looking back at her with a painful, teary expression. Erin rests her chin in her hands, her mask pulled down as she wonders in distress, how could I ever do that to him? Sitting huddled on the school staircase, Erin hears the whispering voices of nearby students. Recognizing that people are approaching, she wearily stands up to leave, thinking, someone's coming, let's go. As she walks, the harsh whispers of her classmates echo in her ears. Why is she so close with the transfer student? Are they dating? The students continue to gossip maliciously behind her back, whispering, if they are, that's kind of a turnoff. How does he get a girlfriend the second he transfers? Right? And it's even worse because she's not exactly normal. The rumors grow darker as they whisper, seriously? So Ju Rin pushed that guy at Yuseok High and killed him, and now she's flirting with this guy to kill him too? Haha, who knows? But is that rumor actually true? Hiding behind a wall in the quiet hallway, Erin covers her face in deep distress as the gossiping girls walk away. Clutching her face with trembling hands, Erin asks herself in despair, what am I doing? Leaning weakly against the wall, she reflects with a heavy heart, this is exactly why I held back and didn't contact him. A cruel voice from her past echoes in her mind. You think you're a good person, don't you? From what I see, you only care about yourself. Shocked and deeply hurt by the memory, Erin's eyes widen as the painful words pierce through her. Crouching down in the corner of the hallway, she buries her face in her hands, crying in silence, I really only care about myself, as her heart aches with guilt. The school day progresses, leaving the classroom empty and quiet as the students disperse. Back in the classroom, Min-gil packs his bag, looking at Arin's empty desk and wondering, Arin skipped school today? Min-gil visits the school infirmary, hoping to find any news about her early dismissal. The school nurse explains to a shocked Min-gil, yes, she came in early this morning to check her temperature and it was nearly 39 degrees, so I sent her home right away. Min-gil gasps, 39 degrees? Looking up at the ceiling of the quiet hallway, Min-gil realizes with guilt, she really did catch a cold. It must be because of what happened yesterday. Staring at his phone screen, he looks at his unsent messages and sighs, she hasn't sent a response to my texts. Sitting outside under the warm sun, Min-gil clutches his phone, worrying to himself, is she really sick? I'm worried. In his mind, he remembers her emotional rejection from the previous night when she shouted, no, don't come. Walking down the hallway with a heavy heart, Min-gil wonders, is she going to be okay when a classmate suddenly calls out, on Min-gil? His friends catch up with him, one asking, are you free after the May mock exam this Friday? Min-gil declines, I think I have to go straight to academy that day. The friend replies, right, you started a new academy. Then how about the following Saturday? Let's hang out, the three of us, with Seonho. Remembering his upcoming plans, Min-gil thinks, well, I'm supposed to meet Erin on Sunday. Before answering, yeah, I should be free. Walking outside, his friends excitedly plan their hangout, asking, what are we doing? Basketball? Should I bring a ball? As the other suggests, let's do something a bit more rebellious. How about burgers in the PC cafe? Prompting the reply, how is that rebellious? Waving goodbye, Min-gil says, all right, see you then. His friend stops him in confusion. Oh, you're not going to academy today? You're heading the wrong way. Sweating nervously, Min-gil stammers, today I have to… Min-gil pulls up a navigation map on his phone, showing a walking route to Gyeongsu High School, which is about 2.9 kilometers away. Walking down the street, he keeps his eyes glued to his phone, thinking it's right next to Palgok Middle School, so it's not hard to find. Nearby, two middle school girls pass by, giggling and chatting happily. Min-gil glances back at them with a look of quiet curiosity. Shaking his head, he continues walking and tells himself, I must be imagining things. Get it together. I'm just nervous. The warm sunlight dapples across Min-gil's face as he walks down the street, lost in his thoughts. He walks past several female middle school students wearing uniforms. For a brief second, his mind plays tricks on him as he remembers Erin hugging him tightly from behind, causing him to whisper, Erin? Looking back at the retreating figures of the girls, he quickly realizes his mistake, sighing to himself, never mind. Turning his steps forward, he reminds himself, she's just a student from Palgok Middle School. An old conversation flashes through his mind, in which someone says, once you graduate, we should have Dore come here too. Min-gil's eyes widen in sudden shock as the name strikes a deep chord of realization within him. Walking along the stone wall, he tries to dismiss the crazy thought, thinking, no, there's no way. Looking troubled and sweating slightly, he pauses, hesitating as he thinks, but still. Unable to ignore his curiosity, Min-gil stops and calls out to the group of girls ahead, excuse me. Walking up to them with a polite expression, he says, I have a quick question. Do you mind? A girl with long dark hair turns around with a look of surprise and curiosity, while her friends look on, bewildered. Min-gil asks her, yeah, do you mind if I ask your name? While her friends whisper in the background, who is that? And the girl points to herself, asking, me? Realizing how awkward he looks, Min-gil frantically waves his hands and blushes, stammering, no, I'm not trying to do anything weird. I thought you were someone I knew. He immediately regrets it, thinking, That sounds even more like a pickup line. Trying to get a straight answer, Min-gil asks, "Could you just tell me your name?" While she shyly replies, and looks at him with confusion. Min-gil stares at her with a serious, searching gaze, waiting for her response as she answers, "Yirin." Waving his hands and laughing off his embarrassing mistake, Min-gil quickly apologizes. I see. Sorry, I must have been mistaken," leaving her to respond, "Huh? Okay," in utter confusion. Min-gil thinks to himself, right, of course not, as a girl calls out to him, saying, "Excuse me." A girl with long dark hair turns to him with a surprised expression, asking, "Yes? Who are you looking for? I'm just curious who you confused me with." Looking surprised, Min-gil stammers, "Oh, well, someone named Dare," as the girl's eyes widen in sudden shock at the mention of the name. Min-gil asks the group of middle school students, "Do you know if she goes to your school? Dare? Is she in your class?" But one of them answers, "Never heard of her." Looking downcast, the girl softly replies, "I don't know," before Min-gil politely says, "I see. Thanks for trying to help." As Min-gil walks away, he thinks to himself, it wouldn't be this easy to find her. Aaron kept her hidden, and I don't even know if she actually exists, when suddenly someone comes running up behind him. The girl runs up from behind and grabs Min-gil's jacket sleeve, calling out, "Min-gil oppa," as he turns around in surprise. Gasping for breath, she smiles and says, "Right? You're Min-gil oppa," leaving him utterly bewildered as he thinks, "What? How did you?" Turning to face her, Min-gil asks, "Do you know who I am? Sorry, but this is the first time While she interrupts happily, "It's my first time seeing you too." Shocked and confused by her familiar greeting, Min-gil's eyes widen as he mutters, "What?" She looks at him with an open, pleading face and explains, "I've only heard about you from my sister." Turning back to look at her in astonishment, Min-gil asks, "This is the first time we've actually met. Your name is..." She introduces herself with a flushed face. "Yirin, Ju Yirin. Dare is my fetal name. Only my mom and sister call me that." Min-gil stares at her in shock as she asks, "You're Aaron's friend? An Min-gil, right?" Stunned, Min-gil slowly confirms, "Yeah," as Yirin gathers her courage and says, "Actually." Clenching her fists tightly, Yirin shouts with an emotional, blushing face, "I've been wanting to talk to you about my sister." Back in her quiet room, a sick Erin sits weakly on her bed, coughing and sighing under her blankets as she thinks of her name, Erin. Opening her bedroom door with a quiet click, her mother steps inside holding a plate of food, asking, "Are you okay? What did they say at the clinic?" Erin holds up a digital thermometer showing her temperature is 38.2 degrees, explaining, "It's just a cold, but they said my immunity is low, so the symptoms are worse." Staring down at her with a worried gaze, Erin's mother asks, "Do you want to come with us just this once? I hate the thought of leaving you home alone while you're sick." Coughing weakly into her hands, Erin declines, saying, "I'll be fine by myself." Erin hugs her knees and adds quietly, "I want to be alone," while her mother watches her with a deeply sympathetic and sorrowful expression. Leaving a plate of sliced apples and medicine on the floor, her mother gently says, "Dare and I will be back quickly on Saturday. Try to get some rest and feel better by then." Aaron sits huddled, looking down with a sad expression. At a local beverage shop, the server places a drink on the counter, announcing, "Here's your yogurt smoothie." Handing Yirin her drink and a cookie, the server smiles and says, "Haha, it's on the house, since you were so polite and greeted me so nicely," while an excited Yirin replies, "Wow, really? Thank you so much," as Min-gil watches from behind. Cheerful and energetic, Yirin tells the server, "I absolutely love these cookies. I'll bring my friends next time," to which the server responds, "I'd appreciate that." Turning around happily with her smoothie in hand, Yirin waves and calls out, "Thanks, Min-gil." Walking along the sidewalk together, Min-gil smiles warmly and says, "No way, I can't let a middle schooler buy me drinks. Enjoy." Looking at her with a gentle expression, Min-gil thinks to himself, "I'm glad she's a lot more cheerful than I expected," as Yirin shares, "My sister used to talk about you all the time." Surprised to hear this, Min-gil touches the back of his neck and asks, "Erin did? Talked about me?" To which Yirin answers, "Yeah, ever since we were kids." Sucking on her straw, Yirin casually remarks, "Back then, I actually thought you two were dating." In a flashback, Erin's sister is sitting on a desk chair in her bedroom, smiling as she scrolls through her phone, replying to someone, "Just on my phone. Mom says it's time to eat." Erin stands in the doorway, looking at her with a curious expression and asking, "Is it that guy again, Min-gil?" Her sister happily replies, "Yeah, he said his finals are already over. We made a bet on our scores." Leaning back in her chair with a big smile, Erin's sister explains, "But his Korean language teacher made the exam so hard, he says we should compare our percentile instead of raw scores. Ha ha." Erin stands beside her, looking on with a playful smirk. Sneaking up behind her sister's chair, Erin teases her mischievously. "Sis, honestly, he's your boyfriend, right?" Making her sister blush and shout, "What?" Blushing and looking down shyly, Erin's sister softly admits, "No, he's just a friend. For now." In a cute chibi fantasy, Erin playfully asks her, "By the way, Dore, how are things going with your crush?" Prompting her sister to flusteredly yell back, "He's not my crush, we're just friends." Back in the present, Yirin walks along the gravel riverbank path, explaining, "So I thought if you were around, Min-gil, maybe you would care about what happened to my sister." Yirin stops and looks back at him with a serious, searching expression, asking, "Then what do you think about the whole event?" Looking solemn and thoughtful, Min-gil replies, "The rumors about Aren make no sense, and I don't understand why she's acting like this either. But most of all," Yirin stands quietly, her back turned to him as her long hair gently blows in the wind. The two of them stand facing each other in silence on the wide, peaceful path by the river. Looking slightly tense, Min-gil asks, "Why?" To which Yirin responds with a conflicted look, "You too." Clenching her fists with a desperate, tearful expression, Yirin asks, "You think so too, right, Min-gil? There's no way my sister would do that, right?" As Min-gil looks back at her with a gentle, reassuring gaze. Min-gil immediately pumps his fists and reassures her warmly, "Yeah, of course not," as Yirin sighs in relief. "What a relief. I was so worried you might think otherwise." Looking downcast and deeply saddened, Yirin explains, "Everyone else, they all think my sister killed him, just because she refuses to say a word about what happened." Min-gil looks at her with a concerned expression, asking, "She hasn't even told you, Dare?" To which Yirin replies, "No, if she explained that, she could clear her name." Standing by the riverbank, Min-gil analyzes the timeline and asks, "So Aren was the one who found him first, but there was a delay before she made the report to the police?" Yirin confirms, "Yes, to be exact." Min-gil turns his head in surprise as Yirin reveals, "My sister only went out because she got a text." He gasps, "What?" Showing a blank messaging screen on a phone, Yirin explains, "The boy who died sent her a text implying he was going to end his life. She rushed out to stop him. But the problem is the time of death and when she made the report to the police. There's about a 1-hour gap, and that's what raised suspicions." Looking sad and distressed, Yirin touches her face and sighs. "You know how she is, Min-gil. She's always been so kind-hearted. She only went because she was worried about her friend." Min-gil looks thoughtful as he remembers Yirin telling him that Aren could never do something so horrible. Yet she remains silent about what happened during the mysterious 1-hour gap. Yirin tells Min-gil that her sister might actually open up to him, leaving him surprised and pointing to himself in confusion, asking, "Me?" Although Min-gil doubts Aren would give him an answer, Yirin assures him she will, explaining that before his return, Aren was in a much worse state. Yirin describes how Aren used to skip school, barely leave her room, and hardly eat anything, illustrated by a hand tossing a small pebble. Standing together on the riverbank, Yirin tells Min-gil that Aren's recent changes are all because they met again, believing he is the key. Yirin looks at Min-gil earnestly, stating with confidence, "I know she'll tell you." Min-gil looks at an old photo of his friends and resolves that until he figures everything out, he shouldn't get any closer to Aren. Excited and relieved, Yirin happily exclaims, "Great." Energetically pulling her skirt up to run, Yirin suggests they go to their house immediately to ask Aren, leaving Min-gil flustered and protesting. Min-gil warns Yirin that showing up unannounced might backfire, mentioning that Aren was dismissed early from school due to a bad cold, shocking Yirin. In a cosmetic shop, a classmate turns to Gina and asks, "Gina, you're coming too, right?" To which Gina replies, "Huh? Where?" Her classmates explain they are planning to visit a new shabu-shabu restaurant on Saturday after their mock exams, and Gina happily agrees since she has no classes. One of the girls wraps an arm around Gina's shoulder, giggling mischievously as Gina asks, "What's with you, Yang Suji?" Her classmate asks Gina if she can invite the transfer student, An Min-gil, to join them, catching Gina completely off guard. The classmate teases that Suji has a crush, making Gina ask in shock if she likes An Min-gil, but the girl quickly denies it. She reveals that Suji actually has a crush on Seonho, the guy Min-gil always hangs out with, as Gina understands with a soft "ah." Her classmate pleads to convince Min-gil to bring Seonho along, but Gina and another classmate are hesitant and prefer going by themselves. When asked why she is against it, Seon looks displeased and admits she is simply not a fan of the transfer student. Gina asks for details, but Seon-hoon dismisses it, mentioning she has heard a few rumors about him. Suji playfully teases Gina to invite him anyway, claiming Gina likes Min-gil too, which only serves to irritate Gina. Gina holds her phone with a rabbit-eared case, looking at Min-gil's contact information as she hesitates. Back by the riverbank, Min-gil tells Yeren to contact him if she ever needs help, and she warmly agrees, saying he can reach out to her anytime too. Min-gil then asks if they should keep their meeting today a secret from Eren, surprising Yeren. Min-gil smiles gently and reasons that there is no real reason to tell Eren, while Yeren looks down thoughtfully. Yeren looks slightly tense and nervous, muttering, "Oh, no reason." Min-gil turns to look at her, explaining that he simply doesn't think Eren would like them meeting very much. Looking at Yeren as she brushes her hair back, Min-gil wonders to himself why Eren hid such a bright younger sister from him. Min-gil pats Yeren's shoulder reassuringly and says, "That's not true. I'm sure Eren is really proud of you, Dare." Min-gil smiles warmly and adds, "Who wouldn't appreciate a sister who works this hard for them?" Touched by his kind words, Yeren smiles softly and looks up at Min-gil with gratitude. Min-gil looks back at her curiously and asks, "How so?" Yeren explains that based on what her sister told her, she expected him to be kind, sweet, introverted, and soft-hearted. She looks at him with a serious expression and adds, "You seem really mature and strong." Flustered, Yeren quickly laughs it off and asks where he was heading, to which Min-gil replies he was on his way to Yusak High School. Min-gil explains that he was looking for his old elementary school friends Baek-Haemin and Oh Jin-soo, thinking they might go there. Min-gil mentions that although it might be awkward after several years, they might know something about the incident, causing Yeren to halt in shock. With a pale, stunned face, Yeren asks who he is looking for, and Min-gil repeats the names of Baek-Haemin and Oh Jin-soo. Looking horrified and sweating, Yeren asks Min-gil if he actually knows what happened during the tragic event. In a dark, tense frame, Min-gil looks back with a grim expression as she says, "He's not here anymore." Min-gil's eyes widen in absolute shock as he mutters, "What?" Yeren stands trembling and looking downcast as she utters the name Baek-Haemin. Looking toward the dark, barricaded tunnel, she reveals the devastating truth. That day, he was the one who died. A flashback to Min-gil's 6th grade classroom shows a pencil case and open notebooks on a desk as a young voice calls out, A young, messy-haired Min-gil turns around nervously in his seat and asks, "Could I borrow your eraser?" A young girl with straight dark hair hesitates for a moment before silently handing him her eraser, saying, "Sure, here." Young Min-gil smiles happily as he holds the eraser, thinking about how the bad rumors about him among the kids had mostly vanished. A classmate calls out to Min-gil, inviting him to join a game of cops and robbers. Min-gil looks up from his book as the classmate mentions they have 7 players so far, but Min-gil hesitates. Min-gil glances at a group of other classmates laughing and chatting nearby, feeling a sudden wave of reservation. Looking down politely, young Min-gil declines the invitation with a gentle smile, choosing to stay by himself as the other kids run off to play. But perhaps because of those old memories, a group of children can be seen playing together in the distance through a school classroom window. Walking down the school stairs, Min-gil thinks to himself, "Since Eren and I are in different classes, we barely see each other." Looking longingly at the classroom windows, Min-gil thinks, "I want to hang out and talk," as he spots Eren standing inside. Min-gil waves his hand with a hopeful look as he calls out, "Eren," spotting her in the hallway. Min-gil suddenly stops in his tracks with a startled look, his hand frozen mid-wave. Eren turns around in surprise, noticing Min-gil's presence in the school hallway. Raising her hand high with a brilliant, joyful smile, Eren cheerfully shouts, "Hi, Minyo!" Baek-Haemin looks back over his shoulder at Min-gil with a deeply annoyed and cold expression. Haemin waves nonchalantly and says, "See ya," as Eren looks slightly flustered and calls out, "Ah!" As Haemin walks past Min-gil, he dryly comments, "Hey, on Min-gil, your bag is open," to which Min-gil replies in confusion, "Oh, really?" While Eren grumbles internally, "Ugh, Baek-Haemin is so annoying." Min-gil gasps in shock, "Whoa!" as his backpack completely unzips and all of his textbooks and notes spill onto the floor. Haemin calls out a mocking, "Haha, bye," as he walks away, prompting an angry Eren to shout, "Hey, come back and clean this up," while Min-gil sits on the floor sighing. Jeez. Crouched on the floor, Eren asks with deep concern, "Min-gil, are you okay?" Ugh, he is seriously so annoying, as Min-gil picks up his papers and replies, "Yeah, thanks. Sorry, because of me." Holding a notebook, Eren looks highly irritated and defensive, asking, "Why are you sorry? He's the bad one. Why has Baek-Haemin been acting like that to you since 4th grade? He's such a loser." Min-gil looks at her with a slightly surprised expression and asks, "What were you two talking about?" Prompting Eren to hesitate and reply, "Huh? Just..." Eren explains, "I was on my way to the restroom, and he suddenly stopped me. He asked which middle school I wanted to go to, if I do taekwondo too." Min-gil's eyes widen as Eren continues her explanation, saying, "If I have a crush on anyone, just useless stuff like that." Touching her ear as she looks up, Eren asks, Do you? Catching Min-gil completely off guard as he stammers, huh? Do I what? Sweating and blushing furiously, Min-gil thinks to himself, a crush? What am I even asking? That's so pathetic of me. Aaron blushes slightly and stares back at him in silence with wide, curious eyes. Erin's expression softens completely and she gives him a very warm, gentle smile. Reaching out to pat his hair gently, Aaron smiles brightly and reassures him, "You're really cute." Min-gil's face flushes red as he asks, "Huh? What's that supposed to mean?" While Aaron laughs merrily and adds, "Haha, don't worry, I told him I don't." Flustered, Min-gil stammers, "Why would I worry?" While Aaron playfully teases him, "Haha, weren't you worried?" Hugging her knees with a bright, confident grin, Aaron promises, "One day, I'm definitely going to teach Baekhyun a lesson, so just trust me." Back in the present, Gina walks down the school hallway and calls out An Min-gil, but is cut short when a hand suddenly grabs her wrist, leaving her shocked and gasping. Pinning Gina against the wall with an intense, furious gaze, Min-gil demands, "You knew, didn't you, that the kid who died was Baekhyun?" Min-gil asks angrily, "Why did you hide it? Did you do it on purpose? There's no way I wouldn't know who Baekhyun is." Gina winces in pain and pleads, Wait a second. Calm down first. You're hurting my arm." Raising his voice, Min-gil argues he sent Joo-rin a text hinting at his death, so she went out to stop him, right? Then it makes even less sense that she killed him. Gina rubs her sore wrist and angrily retorts, "What are you talking about? Don't you know how much Joo-rin hated him? Plus, they had a huge fight the day before. Doesn't it make more sense that she egged him on instead of stopping him?" Looking away with a sad and conflicted expression, Gina quietly admits, "I didn't tell you because I thought knowing all this would just stress you out." Min-gil rubs his temple in frustration and sighs. My head hurts. But where did you hear all that anyway? As Gina watches him with a worried expression. Gina explains, "I asked at the police station," while thinking to herself, I should keep quiet about Dare too. Min-gil reacts in shock. "Really? No way, they actually answered you?" And Gina confirms, yeah, they did. Standing by the elevator, Min-gil is deep in thought, wondering what on earth happened to Baekhyun, as Gina changes the subject and asks, "Anyway, on Min-gil, how did you do on the SMOC exam?" Leaning against the elevator wall, a depressed Min-gil groans, "I don't know, I bombed it. I couldn't focus at all." While Gina clenches her fist happily and says, "Really? Sweet, I did pretty well." Looking up thoughtfully, Min-gil mutters, "I'm supposed to meet some friends tomorrow, but maybe I should cancel." Gina asks in surprise, "Huh? You're meeting friends tomorrow too? You too?" And Min-gil replies, "Yeah, we plan to grab food downtown." Leaning his head back against the elevator wall, Min-gil stares upward, lost in his own complicated thoughts. Gina looks down to the side, blushing slightly with a shy and hesitant expression. Min-gil turns his head toward her and calls out, "Hey." With a warm blush and a sweet smile, Gina asks, "If you don't mind, do you want to all meet up together that day?" Min-gil looks at her with a quiet, blank, and surprised expression. A close-up of a smartphone screen shows 2 sent messages to Aaron. "Did you get home okay? And I heard you had an early dismissal," both remaining unread. Sitting alone on a seesaw in a quiet playground at night, Min-gil stares down at his phone and sighs heavily. Sigh. In a close-up of his sad eyes, Min-gil laments, "Once again." Under the covers of his dark bedroom, Min-gil lies completely buried in bed as the narration box reads, "Sadness washes over me." A close-up shows a hand holding a phone, dialing the contact for Joo-rin. The call is answered by an automated message. "The person you are trying to reach is unavailable. Please leave a message after the tone," as Min-gil looks down with a deeply downcast expression. Clutching his head in frustration on the playground seesaw, Min-gil thinks, "This is so frustrating. Is she really that sick?" Staring at his phone screen with a conflicted look, Min-gil wonders, should I try contacting Dare? Before concluding, no, that's probably not a good idea. A smartphone screen vibrates intensely as a call comes in from Joo-rin, catching Min-gil completely off guard. Min-gil's eyes widen in absolute shock and disbelief as he stares at the incoming call. Panicked and anxious, Min-gil frantically answers the phone and shouts, "Hello, hello." Standing outside in the quiet night, Min-gil asks with deep concern, "Are you okay? Did you go to the hospital?" To which Aaron weakly replies, "Yeah, I'm taking some medicine now. They said I'll be fine if I just rest." Relieved to hear her voice, Min-gil listens as Aaron softly apologizes, saying, I'm sorry I couldn't get back to you the last few days." Min-gil gently reassures her, saying, "No, it's fine. I'm just glad to hear you're okay." Looking at the quiet, empty playground seesaw where they used to meet, Min-gil thoughtfully suggests, "Should we skip studying this week then, since you're not feeling well?" And Irene quietly agrees, saying, "Yeah." After a heavy pause, Min-gil listens intently as Aaron hesitates on the other end, softly uttering, "And?" With a sad tone, Aaron makes a heartbreaking decision, saying, About you helping me study? I think I'll try doing it on my own from now on. Min-gyeol is completely stunned by her words, asking in confusion, "Wait, what? Why?" As Arin downcastly replies, "I think I was being too selfish." Standing alone under the dim streetlights, Min-gyeol desperately tries to change her mind, arguing, "No, you weren't. I really don't mind. I can easily help you." But Arin cuts him off, stating, "That's not what I mean." On her end of the line, Erin's mouth trembles as she holds back her tears and chokes out, Min-gyeol listens in mounting concern as a soft, muffled sniffle comes through the phone receiver. Sensing something is terribly wrong, Min-gyeol asks, "I couldn't hear you very well just now. Your voice." On her bed, Erin is shown clutching her knees, crying uncontrollably as tears stream down her face, prompting Min-gyeol to ask in worry, "Crying?" Suddenly, a sharp click sounds as the line abruptly goes dead, leaving a panicked Min-gyeol screaming into his phone, "Hello?" Staring down at his screen in disbelief, Min-gyeol is met with an automated message. "The subscriber you are trying to reach is unavailable at this time. Please leave a message after the tone." Sitting alone on a playground tire, Min-gyeol hangs his head in deep distress, completely lost on what to do. Back in her dark bedroom, Erin stands leaning against her window, staring out into the night with a heavy heart. Resting her head near the cool glass, Erin is consumed by an overwhelming sense of sorrow and helplessness. In a painful flashback to her school days, young Erin hides her tear-stained face in her hands as her classmates walk away, thinking to herself, "It's already decided. I don't want to hurt him anymore." Widening her teary eyes in raw emotion, young Erin's painful memory concludes with a solemn realization: is the best way to protect him. In the present, Erin turns away from the window and firmly mutters to herself, "I can't be half-hearted about this." Despair completely overtakes Erin as tears continue to stream down her face, and she cries out in agony, "Why does it hurt so much? I feel like dying." Meanwhile, the quiet night is filled with the sound of a television broadcast warning. This is the Meteorological Administration. Starting this Saturday evening over the weekend, heavy rain will begin nationwide. The broadcast continues inside the dark, empty living room, advising, in particular, a heavy rain downpour of 30 to 50 millimeters per hour is expected during the night. Please take extra caution against the strong rain accompanied by thunder and lightning.